our meeting. The Stevensville School Board of Trustees is in order. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time we take roll of the board. Dan? And Jennifer? Here. Tony? Here. Fran? Here. I'm here. Ben? Stephanie? Here. Billy? And Nathan? Here. 7 of our 8 members are present, constituting a quorum. We will proceed with tonight's meeting. At this time, would ask, does any board member have board comment? Quick comment that very happily and eagerly welcome Superintendent Coleman to the position. So
thank you.
Superintendent Coleman has been, by my observation, doing double work in the months of May and June, and then has come in fully ready to go and taking on everything that's coming at him starting July 1st. And so appreciate the additional effort that's been put into things and to get us moving forward. Pleased to have you in the superintendent role.
Thank you.
And the same with Linda. Appreciate Linda now in this role as well. Shelby, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
There are other board comments. Is there a comment from the administration, or does the administration wish to recognize any visitors for the next meeting?
Guess I'd like to recognize that we have our new transportation director here as well, who's also our high school assistant principal, which is Danny Smith.
Thank you. Right. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comment. This is the time for comments that are not, for comments that are matters that are not on the agenda. Topics for public comment do not include any pending legal matters, private personnel, or private student issues. The board may occasionally ask questions to clarify public comment, or the board may correct inaccurate statements if warranted. Is there any public? Right. That's all. We'll move into the approval of minutes. You have minutes from our June meeting, both June meetings, I think. That's right. All right, both June meetings. We are all caught up on minutes here, so they're yes.
Was it 3? Hearings, minutes? The 26th, the regular, and then the session.
Oh, yes, there is. Yeah, correct. Work session and regular. So I think we've got double copies.
That is correct. So that I add additional in your packet there is the correct. You got double in your packet originally. The correct ones are with you on your table.
Okay. So to be clear which version we're looking at, we'll start with the approval of the work session meeting that took place at 6 p.m. on June 10th. Are there questions about those meetings? Questions or corrections? All right. The chair will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the work session meeting minutes from June 10th. Thank you. As presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Nathan said he made the motion, seconded by Nathan. All those in favor of approving the work session meetings, minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Motion carried, and I'm going to abstain since I wasn't at that one.
Okay, thanks, Billy. No, please note one abstention. The motion passes 7-0 with one abstention. Do you wish to abstain? Motion passes 6-0 with 2 abstentions. All right, we'll now move on to the 7 p.m. regular June board meeting minutes. Questions or corrections?
Ready to make a motion already?
Go ahead.
I move to approve the regular June board meeting of June 10th, meeting minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Made by Stephanie, seconded by Jennifer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? One abstention for Billy. Two abstentions, one for Dan, one for Billy. Motion passes 6-0. All right, moving on to this special board meeting held at noon on June 26th. Question or correction? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes from the special meeting on June 26th as presented.
Motion by Stephanie,
Second.
second by Jennifer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Are there any abstentions?
Yes.
Nathan, Billy? Okay, motion passes 6-0 with 2 abstentions. All right. That's all that carries us through approval of minutes. We'll now move on to claims. If you have in your packet, those claims start with claim number 42533. Those claims go through.
I know.
So there are claims that split the fiscal year, so we'll approve the previous fiscal year's claims. And so they start with 42533, and they end with 42557, is that correct, Shelby?
42564, Ben,
Is the.
is the final number. They are in alphabetical order.
When ending June 30th?
Yes, sir.
42, say again?
42564.
5, 6.
It is on page 4.
Is that what is printed on this paper? That's okay.
No.
Okay.
It is on page 4 of the June
total
claims.
amount is for those?
$79,358.71.
79,358. Okay. All right, so, last fiscal year, wrapping up the fiscal year, $79,358.71. Handling these in 2 batches. Are there questions about the, wrap up of last year's, fiscal year 25's, and any clarifying statements from administration? Okay. All right, is there a motion? Oh, well, I have questions. Where is the epilogue? This year,
That is going to be in this new FY.
okay. Okay, all right, is there a motion?
Do you want the numbers and Thank you. I move to approve the June, claims as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Stephanie, seconded by Billy. To approve the June claims as presented, total $79,358.71. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we now approve the first claims of the new fiscal year, FY 26. Those then, do those start with 42587?
42565 to 42594.
Total of,
$372,447.80.
and then I would like to ask if the law claims is 42577. I will share with the board, some things we've talked about in governance, may lead us to a place where we'd like to sit tight on this claim before we pay the check to make sure we're aligned with our transportation vision moving forward. So administration would be logical to just hold the entire claim or part of it.
I think we can do just part of it.
Part of it, yeah.
Is it written in such a way it can be cleanly separated for tonight's meeting, or should we just hold it?
Is it separated?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with transportation. So
In the claims, though, is it done in two separate, is the question?
no,
No, it's not. Okay.
it is all on one.
One check. But we could,
Correct. It is all on
One
one
check.
check, but I could cleanly
Mhm.
edit the claim.
Yeah.
What I can do is cancel the claim and then revise it.
Okay. For the sake of the meeting, the sake of minutes. Can we just pay it in August, or how does it go? We just hold that claim? Pay it in August, or what would the administration like to pay it sooner?
so what we would be, part of it is for the GPS system, and then the other part is for the ready cards. We could pay it in August.
Then it would be my request for the board to consider the withdraw claim 42577 from tonight's consideration for $8,800.10, so that would lower the total. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Oh, for you?
She's
I
got
will
it.
get that for you, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you. So that would be my question correction for the claims. Are there others?
Jim, can you tell me what page on the claims that for some reason
Yes.
I'm
It is coming on line 208 of the new fiscal year. So when we start the new fiscal year. Do you want that too?
I have.
Sure.
Yep.
Great, yes. 363,590. Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then I will ask quickly about football jerseys. Are we on that rotation already? Is there- And we have one other. Is there two sports a year that we do? Is that?
No, it usually comes out to 3 or 4. And then it's sort of, because like with soccer, that's one sport, but you've got girls and boys, so it's.
There are other questions about the July 2025? Is there a motion?
I'd be happy to make a motion. I would like to move to approve the July claims as presented, and amended by removing claim number 42577 for Edgelaw in the amount of $8,877.89.
Thank you, Cindy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Fran. Then moved and seconded that we approve the July 2025 claims starting with 42565 through 47534, excluding claim 42577, for a total of $363,599.90. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda tonight. Items on tonight's consent agenda have been organized as such due to their similar nature and have been unlikely by the superintendent and board chair to require individual discussion. Any trustee has the right to request that an item be removed from the consent agenda to be debated and acted upon by itself. Does any trustee wish to remove an item from tonight's consent agenda? All right, trustees, approval of the consent agenda only pertains to those items trustees legally have the right to approve under Montana Code annotated 2-3-202. Is there any objection to approving the consent agenda as presented? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. That takes us to item 6 on the agenda, informational items. Superintendent Coleman, I'll ask you will lead us through these items and the introduction of the STARS Foundation.
Sure. Thanks, Board Chairman Meyer and trustees. Tonight we have a special presentation from our STARS Foundation. I want to give an update on where they're at. We've been chatting with some possible exciting news. We would like to get to hear from our STARS committee. We have 2 people here with us tonight. We have Sarah, make sure I can say it right, Armio. All right, and Lori Lewis are here tonight to give us a little presentation. Shouldn't go longer than 90 minutes, right, ladies? No, just joking. It's really good. They wanted to give an update on the STARS Foundation and want to be able to start hopefully making some decisions. So I will turn it over to you guys.
Hi, Sarah. I guess.
Mostly, I think we're here to talk about just actually getting some dirt dug and putting things on the ground, because we've been working on this for a long time. The very brief history is that it started back when we were working on the bond, and the community was not interested at that time of paying for with bonds any kind of activities or anything that was related to anything other than just the infrastructure of the buildings, making them safe, and adding some additional things so we can provide some more classes to students here. So we started the STARS Foundation so that we could move forward with trying to find funds to do that. A lot of the motivation was just so that the kids had somewhere to be proud of. We could host meets, we could host different games, we could bring the community in, bring more business into the town. Because we miss out on that, we pay to go travel to other schools so that we use their facilities to learn how to play these games and practice properly. And I know they must be scared of it or that 1,000 times. So, but just in case anyone else doesn't know that. So we've been working on that. Obviously, we went through COVID, so that slowed everything down. And then after that, it made everything way more expensive. So we have continually looked at different grants. We've done local miniature kind of fundraising things, not necessarily for the funds, but more for just to let people know that we are still focused on this and still are concerned with our current facilities. I know over the years, as I was on the school board and talking to people about coming to tour our district and they could see our facilities and say we're going to take our tomorrow. This works and this doesn't work. That is helpful. So it's still
And continuing.
Yeah.
And continuing, we're continually losing kids. We have 3 huge sports programs that are not being supported as well. The passion is still there, the drive needs to be retired, so that's an option.
So, yeah, so we just were fundraising and we had originally started with improving or replacing the tennis courts and the track because they were facilities that were not able to be used. And so we thought we'd start with something that was broken and repair that and then maybe improve over time. And we got planned in the 10-year book that we made when we started planning for the bond for the school and everything. We did a lot of community involvement and asked, what do you guys want? If you could have anything you wanted, what would this be? It went from having an indoor pool facility so we could have a swim team, do all kinds of different things, right? And so we looked at all that and compiled that data and kind of looked at the property and how that all worked and where we could put things and what would flow with the growth and expansion of maybe someday building sorry, I should back up. For those of you who don't know, I was on the school board for like 8 or 9 years, so during that part of the time. So I think that's why we're asking partially to be here, because of the back data for people that weren't here at that time. But anyway, So we looked at, like I said, the property and the boundaries and what would it look like if someday we need to expand. Would we be building a new high school so that way these would be for the younger kids and just all of that. A ton of research and, anyway, so after all that, the talk was about where do we put tennis courts? It makes the most sense to keep the track where it is. Obviously that affects the football field a little bit, but they didn't think too much. We figured out we can make it work the way it is, just needs improvements without moving structures and everything else. We looked at buying that little piece of property behind the guest bleachers over there so that we could maybe have some better parking and maybe do the track a little bit differently, but at that time we weren't willing to sell it. I don't know if she ever will be, honestly. It's an odd situation, but maybe someday, but we can make it work and have a track that's for competition there. And it was discussed, we decided to put the tennis courts over where the bus barn is, because that way the community would have access to a nice parking lot basically during not school hours. And then there's also some parking that was planned along the railroad tracks that were on the side at the same time as the bus barn. And yeah, that's fine. So we paid and installed the concession window in the bus barn, because that could be kind of a multi-use space. Buy concessions for people and actually have running water. There's the 2 running bathrooms. It's a little bit of the reason why the bathrooms were exposed on the outside instead of only being concessions at the bus barn, so that community members could use those as well. The only part about that is that someday we got approval to put a bridge across the ditch up there in between like the soccer pitch and the football field so that people get access up there from here and not have to go all the way around and go around the place and go that way. There's the approval to do it, but then there was a high demand. I don't remember. I remember it was like 6 figures. You need to get these drawings made before you can implement this bridge. And the bridge could be okay for, maintenance crew to go across with a golf cart or side-by-side or something like that, not full-size vehicles. And otherwise it would just be considered a walking path. So all the designs are there for that. No one ever paid for the actual crossing of the ditch because it's, I don't know where that number came from. I never saw it on paper. That's just something that was brought up. It was going to be very expensive to design this and our responsibility. Yeah, and so I'm not sure about that one. We've talked with a bunch of people that do that kind of thing. We've talked with other people that have built bridges across the ditch that got them approved. So we're thinking we probably save a lot of money by taking a current drawing and maybe just modifying it specifically for that space and then getting that approved just because we probably need to pay that much money and there's lots of bridges that go across the ditch and there's newer ones and everything else. So, but that would be a nice benefit for the whole district because then we'd have that crossover over here where high school or whatever you do this gym can walk across to get to the things and not have to go all the way around. Save some time for physical education, being able to have more time actually doing whatever sport it was during gym time or
have such as soccer fields and everything then would be north instead of where everything is pretty much south now. Corvallis, if you've ever been to their facilities, they have their fields separated by 2 walking paths, two bridges, and that's really what we're looking at. It's very simple, chain link fence on the sides, nobody's jumped in and out of the water. But yeah, I think most of what we're just looking at now is, I guess, going back to the 10-year idea, getting the books out. Thank you, John. His very first day on the job, I was in his office and we got to visit about a lot of things. So he's definitely up to speed. He's energetic about it. We just have a lot of people fill in.
They were okay. So going back to the tennis courts and the track, that's where we want to start. Obviously, those are big tasks. Tennis courts are a little bit less than a full track, so we said we'll start doing that. And we had a $1 donor that would match our dollars raised as long as they stayed specifically for that. So some of the money is specifically allocated for the tennis courts. And I'm not saying he's not willing to continue on, but I think he's also like, I would love to see something in the ground and see some fruition to what the work that we've done so far. So we've talked a lot about how do we go about doing this. It's kind of, we're at that point where we have money to do things. We have people that want to do things. We have people that are willing to volunteer and donate their time or material to bring down costs. We've talked with over the years, we've had multiple bids on this, so yeah, we're gonna have to go out and get another bid. But we kind of, it's like, where do you start? Because I want to be able to present something to a builder and say, this is what we're doing, this is our timeline that we're hoping to do, so that he's got concrete information for him to make a decision, the same as, coming to you guys and saying, this is what we would like to do, and talking to volunteers that want to donate their material and their time and saying, this is what our plan is. And even if we say, for instance, it's not $2 million, but if it was, and we went to talk with people about grant money and we say we need fundraise $2 million, okay, great, but actually we have a lot of in-kind hours and reliable companies that have offered their materials and everything else, so that will come off of that total. But to save a project will cost and save a big and make it be realistic. So we just wanted to talk for one and let you guys know that. If you don't know about the board, technically the superintendent is a member of our foundation, the way that it's written up, and non-voting, but part of it. And then also the one board member that is also part of it. Her name's Billy. I don't know when you guys decide to change that or with that, or if you do, but so there's two people that are part of it, and that's how the foundation is built and written up. And we can provide anybody that hasn't seen it before or doesn't remember, would like to read the bylaws or any of that stuff. It's pretty basic and simple, but that's kind of the gist of it. So we are just hoping to break ground. We would love to do that and move forward. So I know that last time I talked with Billy, who was recommending we come to the facilities meeting and have that conversation, maybe at a small, also with what Lori's been talking about with you. We want to make sure we're on the same page and just that we are still here, we're still doing what we're doing, but obviously there's a couple things that you would take longer than it shouldn't have, unfortunately, but we're just looking forward to doing that and providing something nice for the community and the school. And we're all just like, I don't want to keep talking about it. It's just kind of get dirt out of the ground and just move forward.
So question for you, so we did have that conversation about, when you and I chatted before you left on your journey, whatever. And I did go, I took that, we talked about the idea of getting rolling on the tennis courts. And I did take that to the facilities committee meeting. And I don't remember, I don't know if it was Dave Hackey or who it was that kind of took us out there by the bus bar. And I don't know if Dave has called you since, but apparently not. Because when we went out there, they told us that there is water problems right there, and we probably are not going to go there. Last I heard of it.
That is interesting because we've done all the studies and we did all that work, and that's why we picked that spot specifically, especially with the, I can't remember what they're called, the things that are to the north of the bus barn. There's two of them. For sump pumps, or I can't remember what it is, but it's out there. And the last time I was out there with the last dirt person and designer at tennis courts, we staked it out and everything, and as far as I know, and I'm probably somewhere in my stacks of stuff, I did belong, I think, to like bond corporation and those kinds of things. Support somewhere, maybe that's faster.
Yeah, I mean, that would be good, because that was the last I heard, was that there's water issues there, and I don't know where it went.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting to see if it changed, but the ground has been the same since we started this, basically. And
I don't know when this test was, I'm not sure. I don't even know that it was Dave. Do you remember when we walked out there? Telling us that?
No, I believe it was.
I'm gonna be with Dave tomorrow. I'm gonna be with Dave on Thursday, so I'll ask him.
Yeah, check and see what
And
else
see
he
what
said.
that was about, but yeah, there was the old tennis courts, and that was one of the things that we talked about, and decided maybe it's better just to rebuild right there. And the majority of the people we talked to said you would have to, because there is not really a water issue there, which a lot of people said there was, and saying that there was a water issue because the ditch was there and all this stuff, and it just comes across the fields and comes down the road and everything. But it was tested and said that's not really an issue, it's just that it was not built very well, and it's really old, right? So you can't build on top of it, because you could, but you'd still have to remove everything and start from scratch basically anyways, and then you just do for the cost of tearing that out, removing, not saying remove it, put it anyway if you don't want it there. And part of the previous board conversation was maybe making that into more of a handicap parking area for football games and things, providing more parking for people that have disabilities that want to come to attend events, instead of pulling in between all the people and parking the fence, and kind of figure out a way to make that be a little bit safer and more accessible for more people. But either way, like we've looked at it and we've talked before, like if for some reason, whenever it ends up being the final builder says it's way cheaper to put them right there, we would rather do that. That saves money and then we have more money to use for other things. So, but yeah, I'll see if I can find this test and I'll talk with Dave and see what he's talking about too and see if that is a thing, because we definitely tested everything a lot and we really looked into that, spent a lot of time on it, so I'm hoping that didn't change.
It was part of that soil discussion that there would be a bunch of fill brought in. Was that taken out of fill that's no longer there anymore? Where did that stand?
It's gone.
Well, I know it's gone, but the whole notion of fill.
We got first told that was good, and so they kept it, and then when we had, it didn't come out, but not right.
But some different fill that have to be brought in.
Yes, so yeah, over there, you have to. There's something in the ground where.
When the bus barn was put in, they had to clear space, and that was also the staging ground for a long time for the initial construction and everything. And so they did do some of the groundwork previously, kind of in mind, not for the tennis courts, but like they had to flatten it out and do some things anyway, so they kind of did it with that in mind. So I don't know if a lot of fill will be brought in. There's specific dirt that will have to be in there for the structure of the actual tennis courts, but that fill specifically, we were talking about potentially using, because there's, I don't have a picture, but you have the bus barn right here, and to the north of the bus barn, that would all stay plain, the way that it is, minus the parking over here. And then the tennis courts are on this side of the bus barn, and then there's still space between the edge of the tennis courts and the ditch. And with the forethought of thinking that sometimes we get stuck with these weird patches that just end up being weeds and don't look very pleasant, we thought we could put a playground of some sort in there so that families or tennis court match, whatever, there's something for kids to do and it's easier to maintain and still look nice and not just become a weird patch of weeds. So, the folder was more going to be for that. It was also trying to help save cost during the build and not having to have it hauled out. There was a way for us to utilize it, and then somebody wanted it re-event because of the time frame. We're just like, go ahead. Go ahead and take that. We can't use it for building, but we could use it for some other things.
Do you have any engineering on, soil engineering reports on anything, any of the material that you're talking about, or any engineering, geoengineering?
This whole report, back when the bond, because we were doing bus barn out here, and then I also tested. I think I probably have it, because like I said, I did keep some documents just thinking with the bond. I'm sure it exists somewhere, definitely in the school records too. I will look in I have a box full of that stuff, so I'm confident I kept that kind of thing, because that was a big project and a lot of work, so, yeah. So I think that I probably find that.
They have a bunch of engineered stuff.
It's definitely, yeah, there's will be, of course, there's records, so I'll see if I can find it faster, maybe.
Seems like we don't want to talk so much.
Perfect, yeah.
So what do we talk about for timeline, order of operations, what the board can do to support you guys, or to try to really practical moving forward?
Right.
For me, it's like, I don't know, it's hard to say. Kind of already has all been approved, at least approved in that location. It was always whether or not anyone would be okay if we kept it at the current location. The final decision was made to put it over there by the board. I would just say for the foundation, we also will say that it would be less expensive and make sense. We would do that there too. We're not holding steady to that certain location, but, it's more so just like partnering with you, making sure that you guys know what we're doing. We would obviously, because of construction, that would have to be compliant and not be a school while in session. We would love to break ground as soon as possible, but there's obviously certain steps that have to happen first, and we need to put some things in place, so.
So what would that look like? So we'd have to go up to bid. We'd have to go through all the state bid process.
We actually paid for the whole. kind of just like how the soccer fields have happened and things like that, that's a little bit of the separation between our foundation and the school, is that as long as the school agrees to it, which has already happened, we're able to just do it. But that's the thing, is that we wouldn't just come on the school ground and be like, we're doing whatever. Obviously, we want to have that communication the whole time. Make sure you're comfortable with the people we're using and all that kind of stuff, and have it be a part of it. But we don't have to go out to bid for it itself, because it's not the school paying for it, it's us paying for it. And we don't raise money in the name of the school technically, it's a little bit different than like the Booster Club or the Booster Club. It was specifically set up so that we could fundraise how we chose and be able to do that. Obviously, it's a little bit different than like, say, when people want to give the school uniforms and there's like a Title IX thing or something like that. Fortunately for us, both of these sports are, both genders, so that's amazing. But also, it's not really a, I don't know how to, what word I'm looking at for that. It's, we're doing it, and it's like a gift to you.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, so, you don't have to go out to bid and do whatever one's doing.
Right, so in my head, I'm thinking of like 1984 when the Booster Club raised all the money, the community came for the track. That's all that their track is. The other one was over here by the football field. Anyway, and so with us and like what Booster Club did, the community raised the money. Booster Club technically isn't like attached to the school, but it was given to the school once it was finished. That's what we're looking at. We're raising all of the money. We want to build these facilities and just give it to the school and we're done. So it's all been approved and written out, but I think now, especially where I'm at, is just sitting and understanding exactly what we, I guess, are able to do, where it can go. When Dr. Moore was under the construction of everything, he really didn't consult the track coaches at all. I can't tell you how many countless times I told him, it all has to change. You can't have the throwing events in the middle of the football field. And so we were gonna have it moved out over to where on the south side of the practice field, the football practice field. And then he corrected me and said, no, that's going to be a parking lot. So I think there's just a lot of question as far as what do we see this as working together in the best way that we can for the kids. And that would be ideal.
Part of that was putting the field events on the same side as the tennis courts, basically putting the tennis courts be on this side of the walking path, and the field events be the north end of what everybody's practice field and the walking path would go through that, and then the bridge would go across over to 20 together. And some of it, she said, back and forth. So that's kind of the thought, and that's what we had put in place. But again, obviously, we're not going to just walk up and be like, hey, we're doing this. We want to have open communication and make sure it's best for everything. We don't know everything, and we're working with some really great people in this industry, and that's what they do. But also, we're not, both of us pretty well. We're neither of those people are just like, we're coming in to take this and just do this. So we just would like to open that communication, make sure there's no questions that are not answered, and just make sure we partner together to do it, because the purpose of it is to partner and support the school, because that wasn't something that we were able to do last time. Timeline wise, as soon as possible, even if we could just get the track and field events there, and even just for them to practice, it is a little bit hard because that bridge is not there, so if they have to go from the track to that, they have to walk out, move back there, but at least they would have proper things to start training on and be able to practice in the gym class and whatever else as well. But
His jab would be really easy to throw on the field, and then throw on the south side there, maybe the 2-disc or area throw area, and then 2-shot would be amazing. And then if we needed to, if the tennis courts were able to stay where they are, then we're all still connected right there, right? Football field, tennis, nothing really changes, we're just adding back right there. But yeah, I think sitting down and looking at a full aerial view of what is going to work, and then looking at that longer.
yeah, and that was what we were saying too, is that again, just because other things have happened, that when we found the builder and for engineering and everything, and got going on that, we would retest both sites, just to make sure nothing had changed, and make sure that everything was still solid and accurate as up to date, basically. But I know how building, you know, east of here can make things change here, which would be west of there, and so that can change a lot of stuff. So just making sure that we get some up-to-date information and make sure that everything is good. Because we don't, the purpose is that we would like to build the tennis courts rock solid so that this doesn't happen again. And that there's a couple different options with the base. Co-extension is the most expensive, but also I think that was a few. Is but it lasts for a really long time. And it's practically just take it and then you can just keep going and you get to resurface it, but that's only a lot less cost to the school in the future, or if we set up a fund to continue replacing that every whatever years it needs. So.
This is super exciting. Holy cow, right? You guys have worked so hard for so long, so this is, I'm over the moon, this is so cool. The things that come to my mind moving forward, and what I think I hear you guys saying, and I feel this too, I think it would be helpful to set the expectations as far as like what you guys need from us, what we need from you guys, and get that communication piece really, really locked in, and talk about what it'll look like going forward. So there's just a plan, so it's two different projects, right, to have a misunderstanding, right? So, to that end, I wonder if it would be helpful to do an attorney check-in, possibly with to talk about what that looks like, you guys in this project that's been approved, you need to reapprove things, or if there's changes, without reinventing the wheel, and, you know, get in the way of things, but, to make sure we're on firm feet, and also what does that look like, you guys running a project on soils, just to make sure that we've got all of our boxes checked. And have you guys been in, did you say you've been in facilities meetings, or?
Not all together,
Not
it's
for
kind
a
of
while.
like, plan, yeah.
We've been to a lot of them, but not been in quite a while. You've invited me.
That's kind of where probably our next step is always getting together and deciding where it's going to go.
But that's a good place to plug in and make sure that that piece starts locking in and that communication.
That's my thought.
Well, and I think it's important, you know, we have if you look at our master plan, all that, like, it doesn't exist. You know, bus barn shouldn't be there, if you look at the plan. So we've talked about this and we have it coming up in a future meeting. But it's good to hear that you guys will care more than others, just so it's done.
Yes.
So, but to not put the cart before the horse, you know, we need to kind of figure out what the idea is. What do we want this 30,000-foot view to do, to look like, and then narrow it down to 100 feet. I think that's kind of where to start, you know, as far as legal goes. Making sure I'm with you guys. I think that it's so different. If you guys wanted to, we have somebody, people do it all the time. They donate stuff to us. And if we look at it really simple, you guys want to build a tennis court somewhere and plop it down wherever we tell you to plop it down. That sounds really good. And I think that that's what Leah would say. But we obviously need to make sure. I think where we really need to start is what do we want this canvas to look like? And because we're pretty far off of that. There's people building stuff and they built it, you know, and so what we do have that schedule here in the next 30 days, and we're gonna look at that. And then, yeah, the great huge scales and the facilities we need that is gonna happen after that. I think that's exciting as well, and I don't think that we're far off of it. I don't think it's donated or raised. I don't know the cost of it, but I mean, it sounds like you guys are there.
Yeah, well, we have about $250,000 right now, so, but then between the materials and the time and the other things as well, we're pretty close. And as I said, we also have a dollar for dollar donor that I think when we, yes, he said he's stopping donating, he's just very passionate about this and he wants to see the plan. And so I said, okay, I know that's hard, but I want to see the plan too, so we have to talk to you, we have to talk to you, we have to talk to the builder, and we have to talk to like 4 different things to have a solid plan, but we have to start somewhere. And Lori suggested, talking with the superintendent and then coming back to the board for people that weren't here during that time and just kind of just reconnecting and making sure that we're all on the same page so we can move forward and not waste anybody's time and just, honestly, we're an open book. We just want to make it happen.
We have a tennis coach here who's been here decades. Where does he fit into this? How much input, dialogue, what have you, Bill have you?
Sure. Bill and I have had extensive conversations on this, and he actually, because I wanted to do 8 courts, he's like, nope, 6 is fine. And he's like, hey, we've had a lot of conversation with him, discussing just about fencing and how to maybe put an actual walkway in between the courts so people can actually get on and off the courts without having to walk through the other matches that are happening. And so we do have an actual, we contacted UST a while ago to talk about grant work with them, and they actually designed the whole thing that kind of had our thought process and everything, so. I don't know, not the renderings, but actually the thing that the UST created. It's actually like a design plan for that included nighttime lights if we wanted it. That was another question. I said, I don't know if we want nighttime lights, it'd be great, but we thought I have to talk to the neighbors that are over there and see if the school wants to do that. And, so there's a lot of questions for those types of things. So we have that drawn up from them, on what that looks like, and we're just kind of working on the plan. So that would go with a huge part of all of that, and he's very passionate about it, obviously, and we absolutely respect his knowledge for what he's done and everything. So when he is able to help out, he does, and anytime I would ever call him, ask him any questions, he's right there to be a part of it. So definitely the plan was based. So if you hate some of it, tell us all that, because he designed a whole lot of it actually. What we did and what we didn't. So yeah.
Can we meet outside of normal community? Is that legal to do?
You can put any stars meeting anytime.
Committee, meeting, schedule meeting.
I guess who would be, any individual board member more than welcome to do this week. Yeah. Talk.
If there's more than one of us, that's not good.
No, there could be more than one.
You just don't have to board members. Just be there to learn and don't act like board members.
If there's going to be the 3 facilities members, it doesn't have that big with the school, but for that need to take somewhere else. If it was a facility. But if it's 2 of the facilities, the members have a conversation. Or
There's a
taking
lot,
out.
there's a lot.
There's a lot of room. Sure.
There's a lot to figure out, and it's tough to do, so
Yeah, and as Sarah was explaining, it's not for a lack of want. Globally, it's that one person still needs to be in charge of all of this, and that's our main person that's doing the constructing and all of that stuff. We have a ton of people that, I can do the excavating, and I can do the concrete, I can do this, but this person that's overseeing the whole thing. So there needs to be a lot of contact with our main person as well, getting all of this together. So I think that's where we're at mainly, is just, we're ready. We just don't have any idea who we start contacting first and how that begins, other than letting you guys know that we are ready. I'd love to be at the facility meeting, communicating with you on that grant as well. Yeah, we've written a few grants. I'm on hold until fall with the Students of Community Grant Foundation, and we're ready to get started and see what happens. I don't know how far our $1 million will get us. It seems weird to say it that way. But I think longevity, when we originally looked at everything in completion,
I don't want to let someone lose track, so.
Yeah,
I try to focus on the first one, so, and then that's part of the thing too. So-
Yeah, when I looked at the master plan a month ago, they had it budgeted, I think the track was around 1.2, and the tennis courts was hovering around 500,000. And I don't think, obviously I'm not speaking for this table, but I don't think that we're too far off. I just think that there's been a disconnect in communication.
Yes.
we had, this part from speaking, so. I had no idea that you guys were quote unquote ready. We've had questions on where the Stars Foundation is and where they want to begin, and that's honestly why I started looking at the master. Is that's what I brought up to Ben and for you say we don't want to be those people that come in here and just start. Well, A, you can't, and B, we don't necessarily know where that kind of lies in the master plan either. So, we need to have these conversations. And like Tony said, the only way to eat an elephant's one bite at a time. And so we need to start doing this. With that being said, I don't feel like we're that far off. I don't feel like the timeline is 2 years.
Right.
But I think that, when meetings are called, people need to attend and there needs to be communication. So, but I think it's great.
Yeah, we meet once a month, and anyone's welcome to come there, but we want to do, I should say, the board of foundation meets at least once every quarter, it's part of our rules, but we actually pretty much meet like once a month, maybe more than that, quite honestly. But we're happy to hold like special meetings that are just directly focused on just this, so that way you don't have to listen to all that other stuff. But you're welcome to listen to all that stuff for the purposes of the community, for the school district to kind of come together and bring that together. So whatever it works best. I'm pretty flexible with my work. I usually can make my own schedule, so obviously Lori's schedule is a little different. That's a certain time frame.
So I want to flip that just a little if I could, Sarah. I think probably what we need to do to get going with what Nathan's proposing would be probably flip that a little bit to be at our meetings because all the open meetings are.
Yeah.
So if the facilities committee all shows up and your meeting for the express purpose of talking about a school project, we'd be in violation.
Gotcha.
And so we probably want to flip that around to here's when facilities meet and stars meet there to make this more.
Maybe
To run this down and get this going. Yeah. So John has already taken on setting all the three meetings for that coming year. I don't know if it's done, but I do know what that started to look like for the different committees.
Yeah, it's in my board report.
Yeah.
I'll be reporting
I
on.
think we're the third Thursday at 11 o'clock.
And it with first meeting in July or August.
August.
Yeah. And then the other meeting Nathan was referring to is we will meet as a board on July to specifically talk about this. Among other things, but master plan and the strategic plan of the school are items one to do.
Are you asking us to be there?
There's, you'd absolutely be welcome to as an open meeting. Obviously all open meeting ones, be welcome to. I'm not necessarily asking that you have to give up that time, but I'm letting you know our timeline, so we are trying to move some things along, and so more than welcome. But
Streamline that, is there, and ask
yeah,
questions.
I think if there's probably bigger topics on the table.
I think that facilities meeting in August will be very, very beneficial for all of us to be with, and we can put that as agenda number one on the facilities. I know that we have anything else pressing. But I think that after we're able to put kind of some pen and paper and have all of us speak, I think that August will be good.
One more thing, just kind of piggybacking when we were discussing the finances and the 1.5 mil, there are also a lot of extra things in there with not having a proper facility for track or tennis is the equipment. High jump pits, you need lights of hurdles and different things like that. So once you start looking at, literally starting over.
Yeah, no, this was just a line item in the master plan. It was, I have no idea. I think that is peeling up stuff, laying new surface and calling that a track. That's the way I would understand.
I think those numbers can move it up, we're going to talk. They sound familiar to
you guys go to the privilege.
Are there other questions, or comments from the public?
I actually, on the same day of this happening, had the president of the Bitterroot Tennis Association contact me about possible grants in the valley here. On top of it, he's on the board for the United States Tennis Association and got me in contact with one of the vice president of USTA, and she sent information on a grant. Did 3 different grant ideas or proposals for schools to take on, and ours looks like it would be their number 3 grant proposal, and up to $200,000 towards your build, and or $35,000 a court to help support with that. And she said it's all about timing, and she says this is the time to start looking at that. She gave me, coincidentally, one of my close friends is the superintendent of Hardin, who just did the same grant in Hardin, and they got the full $200,000 and got new courts there. So I reached out to him, and he's willing to help support with that piece of it as well. But then again, I need to find out like what role can the district play if the foundation is doing this and all that. So yeah, I happened to coincidentally they had read a Instagram post talking about what happened to our tennis courts, and that kind of started the whole ball going at the same time you guys are working on that stuff. So
Well, yeah, anytime there's anything you can reach out, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We all are here to understand questions and possibly get back together.
I have one loose end that you don't need to answer at all tonight, just to think on. And you talked about a walking bridge. We have talked about that sort of thing too. You have some sort of document when you were on the board that said that's approved, because in the conversation I had, their work was not approved.
I believe so. I will look through that. Those are the types of things I think that I kept, that had to do with the
They
business.
don't think the district office has a document. Is that talk?
Okay, I will look through that and see, but that was my understanding. We got it approved, and that was quite a battle.
And I didn't remember through the group.
It was Bob working with someone, and I wouldn't say I have the emails because those are all school
Sure,
emails, so I don't have those anymore, but,
I do believe Gary was the president at that time.
I think so. I feel like.
That's my understanding
Not
also.
because it doesn't support it. It's just
Yeah.
a policy.
Yeah.
I just know there was something about that, like there, and again, it's not something I saw in writing, but just they said, we're not putting any more access across the ditch, it's too much, we already have too many,
Right.
there's a lot to clean and everything. And after the conversations that had something to do with the fact, I think we shares of the ditch or something, because we have a lot of property along it. Again, I didn't read any of this, is just what I'm remembering from conversations. And then that after through those conversations, we did get that part approved, as long as it wasn't for vehicles technically, but like smaller for maintenance could go and do that. But we did have to do the plans and make sure that they were approved and all that kind of stuff. And that was where I remember there was kind of a large number. I don't know, it was something, but we have engineers that do bridges across the ditch that are willing to help us with that and maybe doing some of their costs and everything to keep the costs down. If it is really that expensive, we can't take somebody else's design and modify it to this work or something, but I will search that too. I have everything in like one box, so I will go through that and see if I can find something that sets up. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Board, definitely. Okay, we'll move on to item 6B, first report from our new superintendent. Tony.
all right, thank you. My goal is to be able to put enough information in the board report that helps support you guys make decisions, but also make sure to inform our public on lots of items that we have going on all the time. And so what may seem like a long report, hopefully it kind of reflects a lot of the work that we have been doing at the end of the year and this summer. So between hiring and looking at MOUs and contracts to looking at, with the admin team at our strategic plan, to looking at different expenses that we have to incur. We've worked on an Indian Education for All guide. There's been a lot of things that we've been doing this last month. I think a lot of times people see that the staff, it's summer and they may not know all the amount of work that goes into the longer contracts for admin team, and then as well as getting some teachers to come work on curriculum stuff. So happy to say that we had several people on our hiring committees that were different aspects of our staff, from classified, certified to maintenance, helping support us with our two new positions, one being the business manager. And so happy to say that that is Glenda. Glenda had an amazing interview and spoke to school finance in a way more than the candidates that also had applied for that position. So we screened our candidates and got down to a group that we interviewed, and had a great day of interviews. And at the end, it was unanimous from the knowledge and passion going forward and experience that it would be Glenda. So congratulations, Glenda, on that. Other one is a director of technology. We've had not very many people apply for the director of technology. As you know, anyone that can do the job of the director of technology can probably do so 2-3 times that out in the public sector. And so we were lucky enough to find someone who was very knowledgeable and lives in the Valley, has a young 18-month-old, doing consulting work that right now he said it's inconsistent. The money comes in at certain times and it's hard to predict, and having to pay for insurance. And so it really looked lucrative to him at the time to look at this position. And so unbelievable knowledge base of this guy who has done all different aspects that we needed him to be able to do. But on top of it, we wanted him to make sure to be able to teach, because he's going to be working with us adults that need more support, obviously, with technology. And so he had the most experience in working with adults, especially with new programming. And that director is William Orion Hunt. His first day will be on the 14th. Coming up this next week, we have planned to work with Caleb, who got to work moved over to K-12, the consulting company that works for us, or that we use to help support us a certain number of days a year. He will be helping mentor the new William coming aboard. I guess he goes by Orion Hunt, starting on next Monday, as well as Russ Hendrickson. So we've worked on a plan for what onboarding looks like from the technology side of it. That's something new to me, is looking at what types of onboarding training do we need to provide to someone in that realm. Right now, we're staying with the current format. K-12 actually does a report card for us, and I could share that probably this next time. Our school, they have created a rubric to create a report card for the schools they work with, giving them the current health in certain aspects of your school, so you can help provide a vision for where you want to go with your technology in your school, as well as coming up with helping with the budget with technology and a recycle plan of technology. And so those are some of the things that they're going to continue to keep working with us on. Right now, we have them on campus 4 times a month, which is once a week. They'll be on campus, and obviously online or by phone call whenever we need them, which has been great. They've helped tremendously K-12 during this transition between Caleb and getting Orion started. So that's exciting on that piece of it. We have also a new proposed partnership with Meadowlark Counseling that you'll be looking at later on tonight for an action item. Worked with them with an MOU. The MOU is almost verbatim the same as Aware. And I've talked with both the regional director of Aware and the Meadowlark Counseling to talk about what it might look like to have more than one mental health provider in our schools. And so I know it's doable. When I was in my experience in Great Falls, I had 3 different providers working in our school at one time because of what the need was. And so Aware is more than happy as long as we can't share the same clients, right? So we have different clients, and we definitely know we have a need for mental health support. Going forward, Aware recently told us that they have found a therapist, and they're working on a behavior specialist who works under that behavior therapist, and they should have someone hopefully here before the start of school on that aspect for Aware. And Meadowlark Counseling said one of our therapists that worked for BVAC went to work for Meadowlark Counseling. That's how this whole conversation started. And so Courtney Bowers, who's out of all the teams I've worked with, she's probably one of the top therapists I've worked with. And so she worked for Meadowlark Counseling, and she would hopefully be able to retain some of the clients that she had currently in our school, which will help with relationships, because anytime you deal with mental health, relationships is the number one aspect of that. And so right now, in talking and working with Meadowlark, we are starting with a certain number of days, and then we can increase by need. She has other therapists that are willing to come all the way up to 5 days a week if we need someone for that. It's an outpatient program, a little different from what CSCT looked like with BVAC, but a lot of they both Aware and Meadowlark talked about a lot of the same services that we have currently. It should look similar, but not the same. And so we'll have to get into exactly what that looks like and those definitions when we get into the school setting. Obviously, we are, I have a draft strategic plan. The admin team met after school was out, and we met for an afternoon and reviewed the 30 sub-goals that we had from last year, and created 8 new ones. This is just a draft. I'm not looking at a big discussion into this. I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of what I was thinking. And a lot of these goals, they have combined several of the goals that we had out of those 30, but we made them a little more, we felt like more quantifiable, so we can get some data with them, and we can show you progress. On top of it, we have a data clarity document that goes with what data, and you maybe remember me talking about this in my interviews, like what data do we deem as important data? And so we've kind of looked at that, gave it a first go of it for your discussion on that. It's one thing to collect the data, but what do you do with it, right? We can collect all the data we want, but if we aren't doing anything with it, why are we presenting it? On top of that, we will have a presentation schedule of when we will present this data to you towards those goals. And so we felt like that was important to set goals that we can track with data over time and show you how we're doing. And obviously how I'm doing, right? A lot of that can go back to what I'm being able to accomplish as well. So that draft strategic plan is in here because I know we have a special board meeting retreat day coming up on the 26th. I felt like that was necessary to get it out early so you can see it, so it'll help with our discussions going forward. And then
I'm going to interject right there and draw the board's attention to these documents, starting with the goals and through the strategic plan, and appreciation for the work that John's done. And John worked with the admin team do a lot of this work before he was on the block, so to say, to do this. And so we've talked for years and years about goals and goals on the board and the school district. And so I just couldn't be more pleased to have this, this level of two-way engagement, participation in this, thoughtfulness around what it takes to move the district forward, you know, how the data can do that. And then I think most importantly, what makes sense for all the personnel implementing these visions. And so it would be the intent of the board, or John and I, to end our work session retreat on the 28th with a meeting, which obviously will be noticed. And then we would call ourselves into order and vote to either adopt, modify, we can have discussion around these goals, but get these goals set through a formal board motion, so that the admin and all personnel within the district can plan on moving forward. And we're not pushing that off until August. And that sort of thing. So we'll spend time the 28th talking, and then at some point we'll call ourselves into an action meeting.
Sorry, I misspoke. It's the 28th.
I didn't even hear that. He said
26.
I said 26.
Oh, yeah, 28.
28.
Yeah,
Okay,
26.
let's make sure that's, yeah.
Yeah, 28.
I didn't hear that.
No, my bad. Thank you. Thank you. And again, let me stress, these are draft, and just our thoughts of working at putting together some ideas on what we felt like was the most important from the administrative side, but also take into account how we can continue working with our community and being able to share out the results that we get towards those goals. And then have a Indiana Education for All guide. The draft is almost done, and so we have money on the table per se that has not been utilized that we can for Indian Education for All. And one of the things that I have been a part of in other districts is creating a guide. And so this guide kind of talks about the rationale and why we're doing it, and then gives examples for teachers that are actually required for 2 lessons at every single grade level, all the way from ELP to 12th grade. That it's just a start, to draft for it, but we'll require them this next year. We had teachers come in to help create those lessons. We used a new format for the lesson planning that goes back to Teacher Clarity and connects back to our PLC Plus. On top of it, each principal has a team or continuing to form their team for Indian Education for All, because this is going to be a document that gets reviewed each year for relevancy and for what they can do to change the lesson or keep the lesson. I think we're going to start with just 2 lessons that are required. And I'm not saying that that's the only thing you teach. Most teachers, please know this, teach a lot more than 2 lessons a year connected to Indian Education for All. But we need to know for sure. And so one of the things that we can do is require a couple lessons and have a team do that and drive that forward to also create that has materials for it that we can purchase to use that money for Indian Education for All, as well as pay for these teachers that are helping do the work of creating this Indian Education for All guide. And so it's us diving into it, and then we'll be using it in our PLC Plus teams to be able to talk about the Indian Education for All content within the lessons, and kind of connecting everything together that we've been working on using that format. And then lastly, this draft also is the committee. I did my best to get all the information from you guys to set up times for committees, and if there is one, I know there's one I need to go back and revisit. So we had a board member say, I don't know if I can actually make that time all the time. I tried to look at what everyone had sent me and then try to find a good time and day for that. So I will work with that one team. But other than that, for the most part, we have the policy committee meeting monthly on the 3rd Mondays at 10. We have our governance committee meets as needed, giving 48 hours of notice. Facilities meets the 3rd Thursday of every month, at 8:30 a.m. in the morning. Resource Committee meets monthly on the last Monday at 10 a.m. And then obviously negotiations are when we negotiate a contract. Then we have individuals, representatives on different teams for technology, calendar, Booster Club, Stars Foundation, CTE, insurance, and we'll need someone for transportation that we are creating and working on a transportation team that meets probably quarterly this next year. We have several openings still in custodial. We're continuing to work on that. We hired someone new recently here, though. Got them hopefully working.
You off the top of your head know what I saw what our summer custodial pay is posted at. That's the same as year round.
I have to look. That's the problem. We had only posted some of the summer openings and not the year-round ones. And so recently, in fact, today, we had someone asking they would apply, but they want something full-time. We're like, we have full-time. So we make sure to get those out there. Again, we have a whole new HR department in the office, and so we're working on making sure we get we've been working hard on several things on the hiring process and posting. And after we get a resignation and a hiring process, we'll have a complete guide for it and an onboarding procedure. We've been continuing to use some of they've had set up every morning, and we meet and talk about all the things that each of us are working on and how we can support. We're working a lot with my big stress that as a superintendent has been working on cross-training people. And sorry, I will talk louder. Again, my goal, and I think our goal, will be to know a little bit about each other's job, not to micromanage each other, not to get out of our lane, but to be able to help support. And the more that we can create an office in the district office where the rest of the school and public can see that we're continually helping support people within our office, and we're going to model that out just like they do in the schools. I feel like that's an important task for our office, and so I really feel excited about the people that are in the office. I know we're all green, but there's a lot of drive and passion to what we're doing until we get it right. Like I'll tell you today, I spent out of my 12 hours I was here today before the board meeting, I spent 10 of those hours on transportation getting ready for tonight. And so I'm not the only one that does that, though. Everyone in the office that we have so far has been amazing. And Shelby's over here too. Shelby, if you haven't met Shelby yet, she's our new payroll guru, and she's learning right alongside. It's been great having Bill be a part of training us as well. And then we're also reaching out and all of us are getting mentors outside of our district, so we can help grow and get ideas to bring back into our district. So we have a lofty goal. One of the goals you saw in the strategic plan encompasses everything I just talked about. If we can get a clear budget and have empowered directors and administrators being able to use their budgets to be able to write POs and get stuff ordered and get stuff in at that level. Man, I feel like there's a lot of pieces of this that we're going to find that will start clicking a lot more. So everything doesn't have to run through the superintendent's desk all the time and gets held up. And so I'm excited for that piece of it, and I think these guys are too. So I want to acknowledge our team. Thank you, team. Sorry, long report. Questions?
I just have one clarification, John. On your report, it says that the policy committee meets every third Monday. But the invitation we got was the third Tuesday. So we might need some clarification on that.
Yep, that needs to be updated.
Ours looks like different too, but I don't care, just tell me.
Here's what I have. I have all of your emails still. I'll go back through them and go and confirm all of them correctly. Dan said,
Just saw
man,
that.
you sent out all those calendar invites for every board member. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's like, I just wanted everyone to know when those meetings were. And you can,
Yeah.
but I understand that it's confusing because that's a whole bunch of times. I will go back through and
I think our policies.
rework those.
On that Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like-
I will go back through and do this again.
Other questions? Public questions, please. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 7, the start of our business national. We have a quick item required by the state of Montana that when the district changes superintendent, that we, through the formality of a board meeting and recorded in our minutes, name a new authorized representative. So you'll see the form there that's provided by LPI. State of Montana requires that we have a written record in our minutes that we are designating superintendent by name as an authorized representative of the district for various business functions and to represent the district as such. And so I think everything else is explanatory in your packet. Is there a motion at this time?
I move that the Stevensville School Board appoint the new superintendent, John Cronin, as the authorized representative, as our authorized.
Seconded by Tony. Is there any discussion or questions? Questions from the public? All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Move now to out-of-district enrollment. Does everybody have a packet in front of the super? So we'll start first with elementary, which there are 3. Elementary out-of-district enrollment request in front of you. So, K through 8, or EK through 8. All right, any questions on these applications that are? Okay, any questions? Right, is there a motion to approve the out-of-district elementary enrollments as presented? So moved. Billy? Okay. Seconded by Tony. Dan, how do you vote? Aye. And Tony, how do you vote? Aye. Fran?
Aye.
I vote aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Billy? Aye. Nathan? Aye. Motion carries elementary district 7-0. Moving on, 1 high school request for out-of-district enrollment, the last page here. And as you're gathering these, please let's gather them separately so they can be turned in with confidential information. Are there questions from the board on the elementary, or on the high school, out-of-district enrollment? Seeing none, is there a motion? Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve the out-of-district added out-of-district enrollment for the high school.
There a second?
Second.
Brandon, seconded by Tony. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to item 7B, consideration of a bus transportation contract. On your table tonight and previously in your email, you were provided 2 responses to the RFP that was issued a few weeks ago for a 5-year bus transportation contract for Stevensville School District. At this time, turn the floor over to Superintendent Conan for a little bit of background and bringing everybody kind of up to speed a little bit for some of the things that have been worked on in the past, really 24, 30 hours.
Yes, thank you. Chairman Meyer and school board, I have in front of me here, this is just the policy 8102. which talks about contracting for transportation services. I want to start with that first. We'll use the policy to talk about our process and procedure that we kind of went through. So. I should probably take one too. All right, 8102 is contracting for transportation services. And so by policy, we have some criteria that we need to meet in order to offer a private party contractor. We talk about within the 8102, the contract shall be in effect for not more than 5 years. Before entering into the first such contract, the district shall determine that cost of contracting for the ensuing term. It will not exceed projected costs of operating its own system. And then we have 2 criteria. 1, secure bids by advertising for 21-day period, 3 consecutive weeks, which we met on July 7th, which was yesterday. And then the next piece is negotiate a new contract with the current contractor, provided the new contract does not exceed by more than 12% per year the basic costs of the previous contract. And so obviously we have 2 contracts, 2 RFPs that were turned in by 4 o'clock yesterday. We had the governance committee posted meeting in advance, knowing that we would get these bids. We opened the bids yesterday at 4 o'clock, and we had bids from both Harlow's Transportation as well as from Majestic. And so our job was to kind of go through all of the bids and the RFPs, which I sent those out to you last night after our meeting. We met roughly from 4 to a little after 7 o'clock last night to review these RFPs and hopefully be able to come to you today with some information that will help you make an informed decision on where we're headed with transportation next. Biggest thing I think that we need to think about is 2 things. One is safety and quality, and the other one is timeline. We have the timeline piece is a big piece that we are under the gun to be able to do everything we need to do, no matter which company we go with, by the start of school this next year. And so, for example, if we were to go with a new contractor, there's a lot of pieces with a new contractor that we would need to hopefully get a decision tonight so we can get a company moving, whichever company it is, right away with that winning contract bid. And so that was kind of the process that we have went through. There was a strict format in the RFPs, so we're able to kind of compare the 2 companies side by side on what they have offered us. I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of information here for you, talk a little bit about the rationale for why RFPs were asked for. One of the things we had a kind of an outcry for looking at a new transportation company from our community. And one of the things that was discussed was changing bus companies, and we felt like there was some criteria within our RFP that we felt like needed to be met to be able to meet the expectations that we had for transportation. We had 2 contracts come back in, and there is a difference in the overall bids from the 2 companies. I'm going to go through a format of what I'm going to present to you, and I'm actually going to get our transportation director involved here in a little bit too to give some information. I'll give, after I go through some of the decisions that we have before us tonight and talk about the fiscal impact, I'll give my recommendation and then would task you to give you a task for me to do for the next step. And so that's kind of the format of what I'm going to present here coming up for information. So the decisions before us, we obviously have routes and activity. And so we'll kind of dive into some information on those for both companies, as well as if we were to look at putting them into our budget, either company, how much the possible tax increase would have. So I debated and then talked to some, Bill Shealy and to Dave Tennis and to Office of Public Instruction too, about how far I should go with information without getting in the weeds too much, because we have so many things that have not been solved yet. The trustee financial report is not back to us yet. We will find out what the possible mill value is. All the calculations I've made off of for today's presentation is based off the mill value from last year. And so obviously we know that property has increased. So some of this is like worst case scenario type of information for you, as well as possible best case scenario. There's a lot of factors, I guess, that play into these bids and coming up to be able to fit into our transportation budget. Dave Tennis did a great job of creating a proposed budget where I could then go back in and plug in the contractors' bids for each for the year to find out where we're at on a yearly basis. And so I'm going to do my best to be able to explain this to you, and then we'll open it up, obviously, for questions after that. So Majestic had a bid come in for 5 years that was $4.9 million. Harlow's came in with a 5-year bid for $3.6 million. So obviously there's a difference between the two of them. There is a lot of components within each of these that are in the RFPs that we can discuss. You can have questions on. One of the things I did is I took that overall 5-year bid and broke it up into fifths before each year. And so even though that each year there's a % increase, if you can create your budget from the beginning with your total budget for 5 years and break it into fifths, so the first fifth, that way you can help incur the costs as you go throughout all 5 years of the contract. And so one of the things I looked at was trying to punch it in also into the OPI calculator for the permissive levy calculator for how many mills it might be and what it might look like for a possible increase in the permissive levy for transportation. And so we looked at a $100,000 home. I'll use that tonight as a kind of a calculation. Again, that's taxable value of a home and not necessarily what the market value of the house might be. And so just making sure we know that difference of those two. I'm going to give you a range of numbers because we don't know for sure because of several factors. Last year's mill values, obviously, I'm using. We have some reappropriated money. We'll talk about that. We can continue to rework the budget priorities within the transportation budget, as well as looking at negotiating a hybrid model for the activities piece of it if we want to. So we'll have to talk about what we want to do. So again, the two things that are in front of us are, one, looking at our routes, right? And two is the activity piece of all this, activities and extracurriculars. Average yearly cost for Majestic would be $907,000, and for Harlow's it's $727,000. And so the way that Mr. Tennis had built the budget, with a permissive levy, we would be able to, depending on the size of that, we'd be asking for, he was going to ask for a permissive levy as it was as we went forward. And so we could make both of these do. When we first looked at, as a committee, the bids, we were kind of worried about the high number from coming in from Majestic, but then when we worked the numbers back, and I worked with Bill and with Dave on those numbers, we found a range that with if we were to go with a new contractor like Majestic, it would be with those costs would be anywhere for $100,000 home. Anywhere from $6 to $12 would be the range of a permissive levy, and then obviously with Harlow's, it's quite a bit less. Would be right around 25 cents for that mill increase on that. We have one of the things that I didn't realize we had coming into the budget. I had the budget worksheets, and then digging into them with Bill and Dave, we have reapportioned money that was not all spent out from this year that is available to be able to help support our budget each year. That reapportioned money goes back to the taxpayer to relieve taxes, and it's roughly a little over $300,000 for that piece of it. So that's a cost that would be able to hopefully incur each year to be able to help support that on top of a permissive levy this first year. And then we'd have to obviously look at that going forward. I'm going to really wanted to get some information from Harlow's. Had Danny, transportation director, reach out to Harlow's, because there is a reason, I would say, why we're in the place we are, was because of the worry of our safety and quality of product that we were purchasing with Harlow's over the last couple of years. I've only been here a year and dealt with it as an administrator every day. But there were several things that we felt like needed to be addressed. And so I did have Danny reach out to Harlow's, and Danny can kind of give us an update on the conversation you had with Harlow's.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I reached out to Michelle Tabor, who is the regional vice president at Harlow's, and for a couple of reasons reached out to her. Number one, the person who has been our contact, our point of contact, was not available for the next few days, but even so, we kind of wanted to go a step above, because this is the person that we've been dealing with a lot for the last 3 years, and have still experienced some issues. So as I reached out to her, found out that she's been in that position since September, and was not aware of all I didn't really outline a lot of the issues to her. A couple I did, and she wasn't aware of those. Said that she knew that there were some concerns and some problems in Stevensville, but I don't think was aware of the extent of that. Was very concerned, and offered her kind of a direct line to her, just if there were ever any issues. She wanted to implement a monthly service call that she said she would like anybody to be in on, whether it was board member, administration, any bus personnel, of course. So she was very concerned. And then after I got off the phone with her, I think she was kind of turning things around in her mind a little bit, called me back and said that she was, she had changed the point of contact. So she had reached out to somebody else and was offering up a new person as a point of contact. So seems very motivated, very communicative. So that was a good contact, I thought, to make. But was very interested in just increasing the communication, improving the communication, and making it more proactive instead of reactive, I think, I think a lot of it has been. She did talk a little bit too about one thing we noticed when the proposal was submitted was that there was a pretty significant increase in the kind of the bottom line. And she discussed that and said that kind of with as they're seeking to improve the quality of their service and their drivers, they're increasing their wages. And so she said that basically the increase in the proposal amount was reflective of that. So I think that's
Thanks, Danny.
the extent of it.
Might have more questions for you here in a little bit, but
Hope I can answer.
yes. The next piece I wanted to go over was a little bit about the extracurricular and field trips. Last year's field trips K-12 were $16,000, $16,320 K through 12, and then extracurricular was $147,997 for a total of between field trips and extracurricular were $164,317. And so Majestic, their bid in the RFP for field trips were $3.08 per mile with a minimum of $205 would be the minimum, whichever one's higher. And then Harlow's a little bit different. It's kind of apples and oranges, but figuring out the numbers, I'll talk about that here in a sec when I give a recommendation. The Harlow's was $118.33 per hour with a 2-hour minimum. And then extracurricular Majestic was $3.70 per mile with $230 minimum. And then Harlow's was $118, same as their field trip, 33 cents with a 2-hour minimum. And so that's kind of the difference between the two of those. One of the aspects that a lot of people ask about are our TR6. That is the reimbursement we get for the actual students riding from the state. We get two calculated twice a year, first semester, second semester for ridership. And a lot of people may not understand that that's only a small portion of that complete transportation budget. The totals for last year, elementary was $72,007.61. The high school was $43,743.99 for a total of $115,751.60. So when you're talking total transportation budget for 2024, 2025 was $1.1 million. You're talking 115,000 of that came from the TR6 reimbursements to pay for that. When we look at that total transportation budget, when you look at it with Majestic, we're looking at right around 1.7 with Harlow's, it's 1.4 million. And so obviously the big question it comes to is where do you find the money for that? And so again, I'll reiterate the fact that we have reapportioned money that we, in talking with Bill, Sheely, and with Dave, that can be used each year. This year was a little over 300,000 of it that was going back to the taxpayer. That's something we could continue to be a part of to bring that cost down for whichever company we choose. as well as looking at a permissive levy when we set those amounts coming up here in August. So that's kind of the background information. I'll take questions here in a sec, but I wanted to give my recommendation, I think, before I do so. So after looking at all this information, I have studied as much as possible over the this last year as a administrator, and as well as personal experiences with running our own buses in another district, as well as looking to get out of running our buses and moving towards having a contracted service. And so have a little bit of experience with that, but then punching it into the budget, like I needed some support from people to make sure that I was getting all the pieces for it correctly and being able to speak to it. And so, again, when I gave those numbers, we have several factors that come into play, but I think the number one piece that I feel like I need to do as a superintendent is really stress the safety and the quality of the busing service that we want for our district. And we have a company that is Majestic, which is my recommendation, that would take care of everything within the busing realm. And I feel like in the discussions that we've had, they're building for 30 years and not just building for a 5-year plan. Looking at the health of the companies, I think, is something that I really stressed as well. We have a company, Majestic, in the Valley here that has 6 other school districts in the area, 7 total, I think. And talking with superintendents and administrators in those districts about busing, have come to find that they hold Majestic to be one of the best decisions that they've made as a school district. I also believe that we only had 2 people bid this. It's important to think about that going forward. If we were to have to go out to bid again, because if there was expectations that weren't met, I think that would be a serious question if we could find somebody. Also, the amount of time that I feel would be saved for administration and secretaries with the Majestic, with the plan that they have, the expectations for their bus drivers, the focus on safety and procedures is going to save us a drastic amount of time for that. And my recommendation would be to go with Majestic, and I would ask that you would task me with negotiating a contract with our district lawyer for that going forward. So I know there are probably a lot of questions. I didn't get too many questions in the last 24 hours, but please go ahead. And again, we've had a committee that looked at this sometime too, and love for questions to be able to answer them as best we can.
So when I look at this, the time we're in this 5 years, it's $15 a mile on a bus. This is absolutely insane to pay this kind of money for a bus contract. We pay a bus driver $70 a day to drive a bus. There's about $30 or $40 a piece of fuel involved in that. And suddenly we're at $560 a day or some crazy number. And we have to go sell this to the taxpayers. And then we're going to raise their taxes. These girls sitting here wanting to have a track. And you know, there's a term of this contract. There's a $2.5 million of taxpayer money. It could absolutely be avoided. And is it difficult to avoid it? Yes. We just got to decide if we're living beyond our means here. This is a huge amount of money, it would be tremendous things for the school. If we could figure out better ways, more efficient ways to run our buses. There is no way that there will not be a huge, and rightfully so, outcry to take the high bid without a massive justification for it. And really, we should be taking none of the bids. We should be looking at the one option that you didn't look at all, or maybe you did, I don't know, and that's to have our own buses. I mean, when I think about the fact that we just spent $250,000 on curriculum, and it took, 15 years to accumulate that money and to get to the point where we can afford the curriculum we actually need to teach the kids once they get to the school. We're just gonna hand out busing contracts like cotton candy at the county fair. I mean, there is not one chance in this world that I could vote for this, and I'm telling you, there will be a revolt in this community if they find out what's going on here with this deal. And so I suggest that we regroup here for a few minutes and maybe, I'm only seeing this thing for 2 days now, and come up with a better plan or at least better justification for the spending of this money. It's easy to spend and hard to earn. It's almost unbelievable. And the fuel contract in it, on the first day, the fuel price in here will have to be buying additional money on diesel fuel. So the number that he's put forth is not even correct. We're already 30 cents a gallon under the fuel. It's a $3 floor on fuel. Anything over $3, we add additional money to. So the bid is not even on the very first day, currently with current prices. So, and that doesn't really matter. It's so far out of line, in my opinion. I need to be quiet on that. That's what I'm thinking. It's just we're way over the top.
I hear you, Tony. I know we got here for a reason. I've only been here for a year, but there's a reason why we're at this point, I guess, too. And I guess I understand. That's the last thing I want to do too, is to go back to the taxpayers and ask for that piece of it. So I feel like the quality and the assurance that we get, and the possibility of building a Majestic owning a piece of property in our community that will house the buses that will be in our community. They'll be a taxpayer also. Yes.
Well, I just, to Tony's point, I picking a high bid, yeah, but I think looking at Majestic is talking about ordering a full brand new fleet of buses, which are going to be safer to transport our kids. And there's, if we look at the back of our thing, it says what is best for our students. Getting them to and from school safely is best for our students. Looking at the list of buses that Harlow's has, which I'm guessing are the ones they purchased from us, they're 13 years old, the bulk of them. I don't see a plan for replacing any of those. So yes, it's more expensive, but I think that's why there is that cost. It makes sense to me. Our parents, our community has come to us multiple times complaining about our bus service, the safety of it, the drivers, the consistency. So I think I don't think our community wants us to go with the cheapest bid. I think we crossed the bridge as far as running our own buses a long time ago. And whether that was the right thing or not, that's gone. That was, 4 years ago. We can't roll back time. We don't have the buses. If we were to start busing our own kids, we would have to buy all new buses. Where are we gonna get the money for that? Not to mention between the funding. I don't think that going back to what we had would work. Either our own buses, are running our buses, or are those, I agree that Majestic seems to be the way to go.
Fran?
Let me first apologize because I have a cough drop in my mouth. I struggle with this because we were all put here by the community and elected by the community, and that weighs heavy on me. And I might be emotional. It has been a rough day going through these. And when I look at it the way that John's looking at it, a 5-year, which is what we should look at, that's how we should budget it out, and over 5 years even. Then you're looking at a little over $250,000 per year that we're gonna spend extra. At the same time, like Jennifer said, I'm looking at this plaque that says, what is best for our students? And I personally have firsthand information about, as a parent, as things that have gone wrong with Harlow's that I am not comfortable with as a parent, that put my child in danger. And that is upsetting to me. So I'm in this battle with myself as an elected official who is responsible for to be fiscally responsible to the people who voted me here, but I'm also in a position, find myself in a position that I'm fighting with the fact that what is the cost of safety to our children? And I don't have the answer to that. I don't know that there is a dollar amount that I'm gonna put on the safety of my child personally. And I don't know that anybody else. I just don't know what the answers are. So I hope that the voting public, who has entrusted me to make the best decision that I can, knows that this has been a struggle for me. It's important to me that they know that this has not been an easy decision for me. It is hard because I want our kids safe and I want to be fiscally responsible and be responsible for the taxpayers' money, but I don't know what price to put on the safety of our children. And I don't trust the company that we have currently been with to be safe with our children. And so I too think that the right thing to do, despite the money there, is to go with Majestic.
Billy? I guess first of all, I mean, I understand what Tony's saying. It's insane that we're paying this kind of money, but it is what it is. To go back and try and run our own bus system, I think it's not really even feasible. Finding buses and start that whole program all over again. It's just not. To me, and some of the stuff we dealt with, especially over the winters, buses not starting, driving down and seeing the bus barn is completely empty. There's no buses in there being warmed up for who knows whatever reason. So then bus routes are getting canceled and just all kinds of crazy stuff. To me, it's not even worth it. I mean, I don't know the logistics of why things happen the way they happen. I mean, can Harlow's guarantee us it won't be that way again? I don't know. I mean, it's great to talk to somebody, but we don't know if it's going to be the same. And they don't even have a performance contract that we can count on. To sign them up just for a year and see how it goes. So if we choose them, we're stuck with it for 5 years. It could be another 5 years of the same crap we dealt with for the last, however many years we've been with them. So even though it is more expensive, I mean, if we can get reliable, decent, dependable service from Majestic, to me, it's worth it. Not have our kids standing outside and bus routes getting canceled all the time. It's just worth it to get it done right.
I assume that we determine that the cost of would not exceed the cost of us running our own buses wouldn't exceed this cost.
Guess the tough part would be how would you purchase buses?
I'm just asking you about policy.
When you factor in the cost of buses.
So the answer is yes.
That's correct.
I knew the answer, I just want to make sure the community is aware of that. And to go back to outrage of the community, we were 2 incidences that I know of very, very close with the previous company to making national. Very, very close. And it was not good. I had 2 of my best friends' kids on those buses, and it was not good. And to Tony's words, I agree that the cost is outrageous. I can ship wood across this country for $265 a month. It's different business. It's different safety, there's different things involved, there's different liability. I think that the price of doing business in this realm, this isn't somebody that's coming across our desk that they're just throwing a number out there. I think that there's a reason that this company does business with every other school district. And we're sitting here like the regular stepchild trying to save money. And I think that we went down that road, and I support Dawn in your choice of choosing
Most of what I would have to say would just be echoing other things that have already been said, but I fully honor and look at all the time the fact that our fiscal responsibility is to our taxpayers, to our community, to our students, how we're appropriating money, getting our kids safely to school, restoring trust in our transportation system, trust in our district, making good choices here. I feel like comes in at a higher level of what I was elected to do than to manage the dollar exactly. So I would put that one ahead of cost in this instance. But the other way I'm looking at this too is I don't know that we're looking at overpaying by going with the contract here as much as we've been underpaying for the service we've been getting. And I guess in my mind, that's what I've been looking at it. So we're now getting to more of a functional reality situation that if we trust our transportation provider, if our families can trust the transportation, can trust the district, that's going to go so far into reestablishing market we lost. It hadn't other years. And so I also would support the recommendation to go with Majestic. I would take that a step farther, which we have not talked about, but I would like to see us include activities in that as well.
Dan? Wasn't anything I can say that hasn't already been said. I'm going to really have to agree with those. They're extremely conflicted. I was involved with along with Stephanie and Ben in the discussion with Harlow's that led to the mutual dissolving of our contract, which is why we are where we're at right now. And I think we all knew that when we agreed to that, there was a possibility that we might not get very many bids because there's simply aren't very many transportation contractors out there. We also realized, I think, that the bids would probably come in somewhat higher. When we opened the RFP the other day, I will not lie to you, I was shocked. Absolutely shocked by what those bid amounts were. And unfortunately, we're not in a position to do much about it. Pick one or we can pick the other. I have a real problem going to the taxpayers and saying, This contract is significantly more expensive than the other contract. They also have a problem saying, we got some pretty crappy service when we dealt with Harlem. And I find it hard for a lender to change its spots. I feel as though school districts across the state, not just here, are being held hostage by transportation. Can we go back to what Tony mentioned, realistically, it would take us years, I think we would be able to do that. I think we've committed ourselves, what we've committed ourselves to, be down that path. I would be willing to say that I would throw my hat in Harlow, or excuse me, yeah. And I'm gonna vote no. And I'm gonna vote no for this reason. I'm gonna vote no as we protesting as being held hostage on charge that I consider exorbitant amount. That's what we're doing here. We're buying buses and buildings for somebody to provide us with transportation because they don't have the buses currently or the resources to provide us with buses. So within, right, asking questions, I think it's clear that the reason the bid is so high is that's what we're doing. We're buying buses for him, not for us. So I don't have a problem with just it being awarded a contract, but as a voter protest, by us being hydrated here, I'm going to vote no.
I guess the question Mike said, and I didn't raise it yesterday, Mike did state the bids. I struggled with calculating and running numbers with what Tony mentioned, that it feels surcharge free. It feels like we're starting full of water. Something working down that, not in tonight's meeting, but it does feel like it sets us underwater to start with, because diesel's not full of free, it's just not. There's room.
Yes, yeah, I want to give a gentleman attended the government meeting the other day, maybe, but I thought good observation. As we sat there and visited with Mike, we got promised a whole lot of sunshine, blue sky. When we sit down and we negotiate this contract, if that's what ends up happening, if we know the providers, I want to make sure that contract is a two-way street. The last contract that we entered into with Carlos was not. We suffered the consequences. But I do not want us, when John sits down with whoever it is, the DO or someone else, I want that contract to be very thoroughly vetted with that government system.
Someone will move the
We are. We are vote, the vote would be, if it were to be presented as such, the vote would be to offer tendering to setting up a contract. We are not approving that contract, there's no contract. Are there questions or comment from state your name for the camera and recording?
Skip Gibbons. I happened to attend that committee meeting yesterday, and I gave an opinion or a perspective to those that were there. Actually, half the people that were here attended that meeting. The other half, I wanted to provide that perspective and expound on it a little bit. As I listened to the answers to the questions that the contractor was providing, it became very, very obvious that his way of looking at this long-term business relationship was almost exactly like what I came from in my own background, in a different kind of transportation, much more expensive, high dollar, millions of dollars of transportation contracts. And we did the same thing. We provided, in exchange for more money from the customer, which would be the board of the district. In exchange for more money, we were providing better equipment, better training, better mechanics, better facilities, improving everything we did. We raised the bar for our employees, for behavior, for hiring standards, things like that. So all that helped us become a better company. However, it was a two-way street, like you mentioned. We were the contractor, and the company to whom we contracted, as part of the contract, was able to come in periodically, interview anybody they wanted to who was in the building at the time, say, hey, you know what the rules are for this? Or they would inspect the facilities, they would inspect the maintenance, they were able to watch our operations. And it wasn't a gotcha kind of a relationship. It's like, nobody's perfect. So occasionally you just have things that fluctuate with any employees. Some are better, some have a bad day, whatever. Somebody's just screwing up. But if the customer is there to catch it, then they can really provide to the contractor, saying, I noticed this. And then the contractor says, I'll take care of it. I'll get back with you, let you know what happened with it. And we go to that employee and retrain them, whatever it may take to fix that thing, bring it back up to speed. And it doesn't have to be a financial hit or anything like that, just keep the standards up like that. And it worked very, very successfully. It's been working successfully for them for 25 years now. They're still at the top of their game, worldwide operations. But it entails the contractor opening the business, basically, providing access to not the financial folks, but the operations manual, the training manual, having an emissary from or somebody from the board walk in there and say, hey, I'll be in there Tuesday and I do a grant like that. To spruce things up real well, we just do that as well. And it's just a matter of opening up, and what it did was it made the contractor, us, our company, made us stronger because they were looking at us and keep on top of things. Typically, my opinion of what's happened with the board here is that they make decisions and then no one ever follows up on much. This can be an operation to where you have a payout, buttload of extra money for this program, you shouldn't go this way. But it's only reasonable that you have a much stronger two-way relationship to justify it to the public if you're going to do that. I mean, you can, in fact, the way it was described was a complete paradigm shift from the way we think of school transportation. The way they have it, it takes a load off of anybody in the schools for anything that goes on in the buses, which is a complete foreign way of thinking for most of us like that. So that'd be a way that there has to be, you can't just trust that to work. You gotta stay on top of it, make sure it's working. So it's a matter of two-way communication again, two-way observation, two-way inspection, or downhill inspection from the board to the company. And you can make a stronger company out of that, make a stronger transportation system for our students, and come out as a win-win thing, even though it costs a lot of extra money. So, just, and we mentioned new buses, if you're talking about, right? I didn't catch that question. What I heard was buying really good buses that are used buses. I didn't catch buying brand new buses for everything. Brand new buses. So yeah, they're their buses, and it's their facility. But it's the same way we operated in our business as well. We buy new means of transportation for our customers, their employees, and transporting on new equipment, and it's ours. It's the way that system works.
Yes.
Let's get your name for the record here, Mr. Gordon. Absolutely. My name is Brendan Connors.
And I kind of come with my comments from kind of two perspectives. Full transparency, I am an employee of Edgelog. I was brought up as one of their items for payments and whatnot. I worked for Edgelog Captain since I graduated from UMM, and almost 25th year doing transportation ever since I left college. You guys are all aware, some of you, and I know there's some staffing changes here at the school and all this contractor stuff. I've had a relationship with previous administration, folks at Harlow's, even Mr. Moore before that. So we have a lot of technology that you guys are using from our company. Whether it be our routing system that's in place for our plan bus routes, that also ties into the tablet system that's on the Harlow's buses, that feeds that information for routes for drivers that might not be familiar. There's been talks of putting RFID cards in kids' hands to help have better tracking who's on the buses. We have a parent app. So I'll just leave it with, like, if you guys do make a change, one thing to keep in mind is, like, there's a lot of technology you guys own sitting on those Harlow's buses that we'd be happy to help recover, work with your partner to do that. It's also going to be implemented and used with Majestic or not. Coming from the parent's perspective, I'm also a Stevensville resident of Up East Side. My son will actually be coming to Stevensville from Lone Rock as a freshman this coming year. So I have stake in the game in the fact that, my kid just rode a Lone Rock bus. I've seen what went on with Harlow's. I've seen kids waiting. And from a parent and community standpoint, I absolutely agree that wherever you go with this decision, whether it be Majestic or Harlow's, keeping kids' safety and keeping your whatever contractor you're with accountable. And I would almost argue we work with school districts all the time on our consulting side of our business, helping write contracts for school districts and making sure their interests are taken into account, and never forgetting that the contractor works for you and making sure they're living up to a standard of service for what you're paying for. So if you stay with Harlow's, I almost say, like, make sure it's in the contract moving forward of what the whole service is supposed to be provided and what the expectations are. And then obviously communication to parents. I think that's huge and something that I see just industry-wide, especially in small school district communities. See a lot on Montana, Idaho, Dakotas, Wyoming, where a parent having access to information about transportation, who they're supposed to call. Like right now, like I've got an anchor come in. Who am I supposed to call right now to know my kid needs a ride on the school bus? When those routes going to be planned? And I'm speaking to the choir, and I know school start is coming quick, and we're in the midst of it with our company right now, trying to help get close to 1.5 million school buses ready to go pick up 10 to 15, 20 million kids across America. And it's a huge task and undertaking, and time is of the essence. And I know it's going to be a very hard decision. I, as a parent, am okay to a certain extent with additional taxes, but I expect my taxes to be used well and be a high level of service and know that my kid's being taken care of. Because kids can't get educated until they get to school and get there safely. So whichever way you go, all support from personal level as a parent, from our company side supporting you with some of the technology you have from us, and obviously look forward to a good future when it comes to transportation and for our children in this community and the service they're going to experience riding the bus to school every day, no matter who you go with. Just make sure that you work with whatever contractor it is on the service you expect and roles and responsibilities, communication, and ultimately that the parents are comfortable with who they need to be speaking to at any given point in time, whether it be your contractor, the school district staff members, so everyone is on the same page, including the parents and the community of kids that are actually riding buses.
Further.
I'll just throw my 2 cents in. Vicky Motley, because I usually always talk. I hate paying more money in taxes, but I also know the results of what our kids and our staff have gone through riding Harlow's buses to competitions and to field trips, and it's not okay. The maintenance was horrible. They did an awful job. And there were times when I didn't know if the kids were gonna get back or if they were gonna have to hop on with Corvallis or Victor or whatever to get home because the bus wasn't gonna make it home. So I think having quality service will be a huge improvement. I also think the school has to be diligent and do their job also. It's not just Majestic doing theirs. The school has to do their job and say, hey, we've had this complaint, we need to get it to the bus driver, not swept under the carpet. I think you have to listen to the people riding the buses because it's crucial. And now's the time. Start fresh. Everybody knows what their job is because we're putting a lot of kids out on the roads and their safety is number one priority. You gotta get them safely in order for us to teach them.
Yeah, I'm ready to lay Larry Lewis as experienced riding those buses. Bring that up. I'm gonna sit on it for a while, but, in the last 5 years, my own personal experience, I had a bus driver who might hold a conversation with me on where we were going. Bus navigated him with my own personal cell phone through Google Maps. I also had a bus driver who fell asleep numerous times to the point I dropped my water bottle intentionally to wake him. Left baseball or got back from baseball at 2 o'clock in the morning. Sat up for 5 in the morning. So 3 hours is all he had to sleep and took that as kids have gone on the bus with the smells of skunk weed. I had one fall asleep. We had an administrator behind us, pulled into Drummond, and I said, I'm legit scared. I can't keep these kids on the bus. I need to turn around or please call somebody and get another bus driver. And all I got in my rebuttal was, just get back on the bus, make sure the kids are fine. I'll just watch for you. Yeah, so that was a different story, different situation, but I think somebody mentioned communication. I think that is huge. Every time I expressed my concerns and shared the stories that I experienced with the kids, I don't know if it went anywhere. Obviously not if the stories weren't recorded. Whoever had that recorded. Yeah. And those are just 3 in the last 5 years. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And I think kind of piggybacking what you were saying, I don't want to fault. I know that there's a lack of drivers. I know that whole reality is real. I've worked in the school system, paraeducators, it's real. Teaching is real, right? I understand the buses are too. But it is essential that somebody comes in and does these checks. I mean, there were times that, what do you do? My hands are tied. I'm literally taking 30 kids. I don't want her coming back. I've been in that bus. So those are just some experiences. You guys have a hard task to deal with right now. This is not an easy decision. We've got community involved, which wants to have our kids.
Sorry, Jessica Martinez. In the last quarter, well, in the year 2016, I took my kids off the bus. What they said, and my oldest son, sweetest to be kid, and he told me, Mom, it's not safe for you to go on the bus. Those kids are not okay. And for him to notice, he's a little oblivious to a lot of stuff, but for him to notice, and then I talked to my little son, he goes, yeah, I can't, we tried to save him, it's not working. Sorry, I'm still sick. But also with Carlos, I had the privilege of seeing each year. My sister took us to the complex. For 60 seconds. And we got to a dead end road in Kuching. And people who lived in the houses 6 years ago and couldn't figure out how to get us. Do something that I saw in the streets. It's not what happened.
to be able to have the kids safely and timely arrive to places. That's what we need them to do. The price terrifies me. That's a lot of money. My personal opinion, that's a lot of teachers and parents. What we can do. But we can't. Don't need the teachers and parents and the students. And I just want to bring up the fact that the bus routes were a huge issue this year. A lot of changes, of new ways, the kids can just stand over here. We had kids standing in the middle of very busy roads. So whatever business you guys choose, please make sure those bus routes are being followed and are safe. And as measures, they're not touching the 50,000 miles.
Yep. I have one more thing for the, pay more for contract, or pay more for the drivers. But I'll do pick better drivers. That's just the marketplace. There were a lot of promises made in that meeting yesterday. There were either promises or explanations of current policies or procedures that this is the way they do things up there. All that needs to be in print somewhere, either in contract or in their documents that you're submitted to you guys to review. Nothing is, no verbal agreements. It can't happen. And I can promise you that if the boss says, hey, we're gonna have the customer looking at you every now and then and come in to audit stuff like that, they're not gonna like it. I tell you the experience of it. I didn't like it, but it works. It works, and it makes a better company out of it, better contractor, and a better relationship overall.
Okay.
Okay, Gibbons. Hopefully this will be the final comment. You guys just got through in this huge new curriculum. And one of the things that I remember you talking about so much was that you were going to go to evaluate it at every step to make sure that it did what you wanted it to do, what you bought and paid for it to do. So guess what, guys? Practice what you preach. I think what he said. Because I know of a situation where we had a failure of something that happened in this school district, and it wasn't followed through on by the board, and we found out later it never happened. When we were told, oh yeah, this really great thing that you did happened, and we found out it didn't happen. So I'm gonna tell you, please evaluate this, whoever it is you pick, you have that agreement with them that we're going to be evaluating you and make sure that you keep hitting the mark. Because when you don't hit the mark, then we're gonna be checking into that. And it does, it makes a better company, it makes better employees, because they are held to higher standards. It's not like what we're doing now with a lot of our kids, oh, okay, you can take the test 5 times and when you finally pass it, word you. No, you hold these people, your employees, and spending all this time from a person who retired fixed income, who's looking at those taxes we're talking about, okay? I want to get my money's worth.
Thank you. Further comment on the public administration. The board.
I guess I don't see any guarantee that we don't have the exact same documents that we had all last year. Different boss, and that makes a big difference, I'll absolutely mention that. There's no way that we have any way of determining what Lindsay pays. I guess we could look at one of those schools. Maybe you'll pay 10% higher here than you did there, because it looks like we're about 10% higher than some of the other schools. Why we're 10% higher, I don't know. I just think that to make this decision, we got this information in 2 days. It's a $5 or $6 million contract. We are putting this around the neck of future board members. I just think it's a big deal. I would really like to see this give us 2 weeks to look at this and do a little more research before we, in 48 hours when it's dropped off to approving it, going forward with the contract.
So we did talk in governance about this timeline, so I'm sure that with everybody, we did talk about it. It's a two-way difficulty, it's the difficulty that Tony has articulated very well. And probably more in these packets here than any of us have been able to process, do the math on, and there are certain things we can't do the math on, and that makes it even more challenging. The other thing we talked about is the timeline to identify contractor, and what that would mean for the start of school, August 25th.
Yes.
And we got logged down really fast. So we did talk a little bit about possibility of, when we start to factor in Montana law and meetings, we would be in a position where we call a meeting, set a meeting tonight for Friday. That would be in alignment with open meeting law. That would give us the rest of the week. Make a decision by, or, just throwing some things out there by Friday. Obviously, there's times further out. The further out piece, well, it can help with our decision making. We did have some concern, could really hurt us for the first week of school. So we got pretty stuck on that, and we didn't. I think we captured the conversation. We didn't really land on it. We just talked about options. The one thing we did probably talk about more than anything briefly, we could sit here tonight knowing this was going to go about how it has, and we can meet Friday, and we'd be in compliance with all.
Different consideration given what this does, we may need bonds passed in the future. Just a hard deal.
It's a hard deal to figure out, as John said, and we don't know what a mill is worth right now. No school district in the state knows what a mill is worth, because it's all being calculated right now. So we're somewhere in between, we could be in between that $6 on the low end, 12 on the high, on $100,000 valuation. And we know nobody's house comes in at $100,000, it's gonna be bigger. So we know that. I don't know how to answer that, because I understand the question, Tony, I don't know how to answer it. I appreciate the question, I respect it. I think, in my opinion, certain taxpayers that you would ask for a future bond or a levy for, that is voted, not permissive, like this is, the smallest of increases that a board would take would be an insult in the front and result in a no vote on a voted levy because a board took a permissive action that countered their financial values and sensibilities. We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about on the 28th. We have the middle school building that we're sitting in rolls off everybody's taxes. We've got a lot to talk about there. We also have a technology levy that expires in a year, and growing needs for levied items, for voted levies. And I guess for clarity's sake, and when we talk about all this, and some people that come with me, there'd be a lot of parents and teachers. It would be, it absolutely would be. The awkward thing that the state of Montana gives us as a school board is this is a permissive levy acted upon by local school boards to fund the transportation, only the transportation to and from school of students, so no extracurricular travel. But only the to and from transportation. running a similar levy as it would be to better pay teachers and hire more teachers and para is not a permissive levy, that's a voted levy. So it's a totally different ballgame, totally different. But that comment's not lost on me at all. Yeah, and I know you weren't saying it in a way to, drive a point on, but, and not a lot. Jennifer?
I personally don't see a reason for us to delay this vote. The bids are not going to change between now and Friday. Yes, you'll have more time to dig in to them, but the bottom line is the bottom line. And I think time-wise, for Mr. Honan to be able to start working on a contract negotiation with whoever bid we pick, I think having that happen sooner rather than later makes the most sense. The likelihood of the 8 of us coming back to this room again in a week from past experience isn't likely to happen. And I think we should go ahead and at least take an initial vote. And I mean, if it fails, then I think then we would have to wait. I'd be happy to make a motion if we were to that point, but I don't want to stop the comments.
Well, all we're doing is authorizing the starting contract. We're not choosing.
We're not voting on the contract language, no. Now, to be very clear, both of these have a contract in them.
Right.
So if we're not starting from scratch, so I think we want to go in eyes wide open, that there's a lot of language, and a lot of it obviously has to do with the prices that are put out there. But yes, I think, yes, your point is exactly right, we're authorizing to start that. We would see that final language again, so, our lawyer would as well. And I think there's been a lot of very valuable things said tonight, in my opinion, about offers and commitments that have been put out there that do sound like things we want in Stevensville, and put out there verbally versus put on paper. We have learned our lesson. We have learned. So, well, I'm not the one that would be writing the contract. That would be up to our superintendent and our lawyer. That is not lost on me at all. We have not done well with. Yeah.
So in looking at the possibility of a motion being made, so current, are we looking at just the routes, or are we looking at activities as well? Where do we stand with the activity situation? Do we roll it in? Do we want to look at a hybrid method? Do we want to do our own? Because that's going to enter into this for Mr. Kraut, there are somebody from Harlow's that will become awarded the contract.
I believe it goes together. I don't think I don't see a path forward that we wouldn't start, we wouldn't get off the ground running without those being all awarded to a contractor. I don't see a way for that. I would like to see, and I believe Mr. Coleman had a conversation, and our administration communicated with both bidders today, so, everybody's kind of been on the same playing field. But there's been some talk of, and this, I guess, is a clarity piece. We're getting down in the weeds a little bit, but the rest of the board that we learned yesterday, as you look through these, and part of what makes these apples to oranges, as John pointed out, Majestic did not bid our activities using our 2 buses. I'm not sure if the 5 members who are reading this tonight understand that. There is no bid for that, because they would not, Majestic would not do that. They would, and for a lot of valid reasons that were explained to us, they would run their equipment their buses. So we have 3 buses that would sit, or we need to fit into it. We need to figure out something. One thing that I rolled around quite a bit the past 24 hours is and kind of a little bit of what Tony's talking about, not the full-blown take back transportation, but an ability for us when things get settled, when we get comfortable, when things are going well, and we get our feet under us, could we have the first right of refusal at our own activities? And so if we had a driver that worked for us, that our administration scheduled to run a Jacket travel bus, that we have the first right of refusal. I don't think that changes awarding our starting of contract purpose. In fact, based on the number of activity trips we have, I honestly don't think it even cuts into the number of activities that a contractor would provide on a significant level. I think it could be something to think about for the iron that we have. Do we put it on the road and run some of our trips when it makes sense? Or do we need to start to find a way to liquidate it and be out of it? But we do know that with one of these bids in front of us, there would be zero use of that. Those would be parked assets. And they would not use. The other bid that would use them as they've been used the past 4 years. But does that answer make sense? I think we can move forward. I think what I just talked about there, and Stephanie mentioned earlier, is a small side item that is a superintendent is empowered to work.
Well, I'll just make one last comment, last for me, is that I do feel like, I forgot your name, I'm so sorry.
Brendan Connors.
This gentleman that Brendan made earlier, when you're counting the days until school starts, when you have a really big job, like putting the whole transportation fleet and the civil drivers together, those kinds of lessons and days do matter. And looking at later this week versus pushing it into next week or the week after certainly sounds better, but I would like, I personally feel that it is, while not everything is fully mined out, we see what our pathways are forward. We have heard from, our reliable people that show up time and time again with no hesitation how they feel about this particular issue. We know what things look like we know what that would look like to try to reclaim transportation in-house, and can we do it by August 25th? Don't think that's doable, I'm glad that you asked the question, glad that you bring this up. We know what it looks like with our current transportation provider, so I personally feel ready to vote on this tonight, knowing that there are still pieces to put in place, knowing that there's still things to refine and figure out, but that there's a pathway in place, whatever decision we make, that we could make things doable, and I would feel secure doing a vote tonight, knowing that we have some things to work out.
So Jennifer asked first, and so I would just send her that courtesy of doing that. The motion would be to authorize the superintendent to engage in the creation of a contract, which we would then see again with whichever provider is on your mind.
But the motion would be to accept one bid over the other.
The way we have it is that.
Just to enter.
Yes, but what we have to do tonight is name one of these two.
Okay.
That's what has to be done.
Okay.
And then it's moving forward.
Okay.
We're gonna go one way, not the other. And then.
So I make a motion to authorize Superintendent Cronin to enter into negotiations with Majestic Bus Company for the next 5 years of the bus contract.
Agree to 5-year contract. Is there a second? Second. Give that to Fran. Motion made by Jennifer, seconded by Fran. Opportunity again, significant item here, board comment.
I'm sure that's something that would be appropriate for, if there are those of us that have things that we would like to see in the contract, we would shoot John an email, you know, not, obviously not, this is what has to be there, but just here's some things that I'd like to see.
And using, yes, and using what's in the back here as, it started right here with a sample contract. So here's where things are starting, knowing that's the initial language and then what needs to be.
I mean, could you task the governance committee at some point in time collecting those ideas, passing them on to John and reviewing the process as this moves forward?
That would certainly be fine. Welcome to, with an 70.
What's an ideal timeline to shoot for to try to have this signed on?
As soon as possible, I guess.
As a businessman, it's hard to make, it's all hard to pull the trigger on really hard items without a contract. And so, as soon as possible. We're trying to make that first date as soon as possible. You might be able to, your attorneys, they're probably the ones that.
I will state things so we're all on the same page, that, well, the board will have an opportunity to see this. It would not lend itself to the board voting before it's signed. I mean, we'll people watch up their email and but I don't see us meeting again to ratify it one more time. I think Dan's point, I would envision that governance will come together and work quickly and frequently. So. So it's been moved and seconded, the motion is on the floor. Further question, comment from the floor? Further question, comment from the public? Yes, please, thank you.
Mr. Mullen, Mr. Hudson, I hate to start anything with that kind of doubt, with that kind of, I know there's some animosity, the word hostage, those are rough. Those are rough for me to grasp. I had to be talked into present with him. I did. When I first heard about it, I said, that's a troubled area, troubled parents, troubled community, the transportation has failed. That's gonna be a tough one. So I had to be talked into it. I certainly don't want to start out this way. We're in business. These are business choices. I'm not getting welfare here. I don't like that a can of soup costs $6, but that's just reality. Buses are 80% more now than what I bought them for Florence Road. Okay. So you wonder why things are so expensive? It's the day and age. It's not Majestic Bus Service, it's the day and age. I can't answer for that. That's just the way it is. We're all in people's babies here. You want the best? You gotta pay. I'm sorry, but you do. It takes those specific drivers. It takes that specific equipment. It takes having a facility that's ready for Montana cold winters. It's the day and age, the cost of those things. That's why this thing looks like it does. If you want us, great. If you don't, that's okay too. And I speak from my wife who said, Mike, you're in your 60s. Should you be coming to the table on this? I certainly got other things to do. I'm very busy. We got very successful contracts in other areas. I really hope the best for you. If you want Majestic and you want the best, then I'll do what you need. to have done. It'll happen because I'm not a quitter. It'll happen, but we talk about 5 years. None of this stuff can be paid for in 5 years. None of it. It's gonna take 15, 12 to 15 is what our business plan says. So if you're, any chance you're thinking in your mind, let's book with Majestic for 5, but the whole time we're gonna sideline this thing where we're gonna develop some depreciation, we're gonna buy our own thing, in 5 years we're gonna have our own buses, please tell me now, because I can't pay for this stuff in 5 years. I gotta renegotiate. It's not worth it for me to come and be your 5-year guy. Go with Harlow's if you have that plan. I beg you, go with Harlow's if you're gonna go with 5 and do your own later. That's not Majestic. We're gonna invest in your community, we're gonna hire local people, we're gonna build up us in this district, we're gonna pay our taxes, and we're gonna transport your kids as safely as they can be transported. I promise you that. Words are, they're futile, and I get that. Those things are built in the contracts. You know why I have to do such a good job in the next 5 years? It's so you'll renegotiate with me. If I don't, I'm bankrupt. If you don't negotiate with me for another 5, I'm bankrupt. That means everything I've done for the last 60 years is for nothing. So that's why I'm gonna make sure your kids are safe. That's why I'm gonna make sure the buses start every day and they're en route every day. So you're happy and you'll sign off on it. So that's that. If you don't want us and you got a secondary plan, speak up now and I'll walk. I really will. No hard feelings, really. I don't want to be cut off in 5 years because you have this sideline plan. I wouldn't blame you for it either. A lot of districts think they can do it cheaper. Turns out, John knows, because he was right down the road with the district, those costs are still yours as a district, they're still yours. You know the advantage of a school district has above a contractor? They get to run red dye diesel. That's their advantage. That's it. Otherwise, you still gotta pay your drivers. Insurance still costs the same amount. Buses cost the same, tires cost the same. Everything's the same. The only problem is now you gotta educate and transport people at the same time. And you have this huge transportation bill. Can it be done cheaper by somebody who parks in the weeds and hires family members for drivers and doesn't give safety and attention? Yes, it can be done cheaper. That's not me. That's my 2 bits. If you'd like to ask me some questions, I'm happy to answer them right now or tomorrow, or call me on my cell phone. You can ride any route, anytime, anywhere you want. You're a board member, you can come on any of my facilities, you can talk to any of my people, any of my superintendents. That's the truth of it. Talk to the superintendents that have Majestic as their contractors. And they'll tell you what I'm telling you now. This company doesn't mess around when it comes to kid safety and reliability. And we are fairly cheap across the state and across the nation for transportation. They're in the 600s in Helena. And they do exactly what we do. You talk about 467 being a rough number per route per day. They're at 600s in Helena, and they're doing exactly what we do. So, like I said, I'm not getting rich. I'm just answering a call that you wanted me to come here. I've been here before. Hate to say it, but you should have went with me before. No, sorry, but and I've been down the road watching at a distance and feeling bad and wishing things were different for you, and I wish the best for you now. Do what's right for your district, please. And if it doesn't include a safe program like mine that comes at a cost that you really have doubts about, push me away. I'm okay with that, really. But if you say go, we go. And we'll do it. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Right, motion's on the floor and seconded that we would authorize the superintendent to engage in the creation and development of a contract with Majestic Bus Services Incorporated. Nathan, how do you vote? Aye. Billy, how do you vote? Aye. Stephanie, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye. Fran, how do you vote?
Aye.
Tony, how do you vote?
No,
Jennifer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dan, how do you vote?
Support Majestics as a carrier, and I agree with what's being said, but I'm still going to vote no as protesting the cost.
Motion carries 6-2. Superintendent will move forward in the development of the contract. Okay.
I have no problem with our transportation plan.
Dan.
I'm a buying school teacher. That's pretty good.
the word hostage got me. I hate that you think that, and I hope that I can prove you wrong. I don't think you have to prove me wrong.
Okay, so we have a more difficult decision to make with the consideration of the disposal of obsolete textbooks. Okay, so buckle up.
Buckle up.
All right, so in front of you tonight, you have 2 pages of obsolete textbooks, some of them dating back to the 1980s. And so as a board, we are asked under policy 7251 to authorize the disposal of these. Is there a motion at this time? Tony, seconded by Nathan. Any questions about the list? All those in favor of the disposal of the list, say aye. Oh,
I have something first.
oh, there is comment. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, there is an additional,
Oh, yeah, there's some things from the maintenance.
Yes.
department.
right, so
That was,
Show everything else.
if we could add to the motion and stuff. Let's do
Yeah,
it on
it's a
that.
list,
Okay.
As presented.
as presented.
Okay,
yes.
as presented.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are
Not just
items
hands.
from the maintenance department as well.
random.
Yes, thank you. Brandon. So what are those, just so the public is aware, so we're talking about.
Shall we read it out?
Sure.
There is a box of books, outdated and damaged, paper shredder that no longer works, a coffee pot that no longer works, hot water dispenser that does not work, 30 football helmets that are outdated, and an outdated smart board.
Thank you, Fran. Thank you, Superintendent Coleman. Is there any questions then from the public on this updated item? Yes.
We never used to be able, because of Nazi rules, to sell old football.
All right.
They have to be.
It is a disposal.
It is a disposal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's disposal.
Good.
Right, other questions, comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now consider special meeting of the school board of trustees. To order, please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will call roll at this time. We'll start with Nathan, Billy, Stephanie. I'm here, Ben, Fran.
Here.
Tony, Jennifer,
Here.
and Dan. 5 of our 8 trustees are present, giving us a quorum, so we will conduct business this afternoon. Thanks for those who have shown up to attend here. Is there, I think we'll forego recognition of visitors. Is there board comment at this time for this special? Quick comment, just want to thank folks for the transition. Thank Bill for seeing things through and helping things out with the change in the district office there. Thanks to Lorraine, Shelby, excited to have Linda moving forward with us. And so appreciate all the efforts being made in the district office, and of course Dave's efforts too. Dave planned to be out
and you have a little time off today. This was not planned, so.
Okay, thanks. You get to meet in person the district team, and we have good coaching around the team. So we're using this as a learning experience. So yeah.
And thanks to our admin too for running summer school and covering for things while we're in this transition. All the things that we've done there. So any comments there from admin or our okay. All right, we have some claims to approve here to get us caught up, especially as we get towards the end of the fiscal year. I know Shelby and Bill have been working super hard on getting a lot of checks out the door. So we're going to do our claims starting at 42,501 through 42. 42,533. That was the number that I searched. So, all right, total $38,728.44. Question about the claims. Right, is there any motion?
I move to approve claim number 42,501 through 42,533. For the total of $38,728.20.
Thank you. Is there a second? Moved by Stephanie, seconded by Fran. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have the opportunity to make some hires, including folks that are here in the room. So we appreciate that. Teacher, football coach, Linda, decided to bring on as our business manager, recommendation for the technology director, and a couple other folks. And so, as part of our consent agenda, items on this afternoon's consent agenda that organized as such, due to their similar nature, have been deemed unlikely by superintendent and board chair to require any legal discussion. The agency have the right to request that an item be removed from the consent agenda to be used debated and acted on by itself. If any trustee wish to remove an item. Trustee approval of consent agenda, only pertains to those items the trustees legally have the right to approve under Montana 2-2. Any objection to approving the consent agenda as presented? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. This will take us into our business action items, and now that we have approved the consent agenda, Linda, as our business clerk, will approve a contract for the business manager. So, Dave, anything to share with that, or does any member have an comment at this time?
Nothing more than what is in the narrative, but year-long contract, $72,000 annually. So pretty straightforward, and a copy of the contracts in your packet.
Brandon?
The only question I had was what was the previous salary for the business manager?
Yeah, it was 84.
Okay, thank you. It just wasn't on the.
Yeah, I could be off a little bit, but I think that's right.
I was
Yeah.
just interested in 83 and some change.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, other questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for the business manager to Linda Kearney as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Fran and Jennifer, further questions or comment? All those in favor of approving the contract for business manager Linda Kearney, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. With this, it involves the appointment of a district clerk, and we appreciate that Shelby has been the interim, and I think will continue to be able to be a backup district clerk as well. So that's appreciated. But with the business manager position comes the legal appointment of the district clerk, and that will go with Linda. So is there a motion?
I'll move to appoint Glenda Kearney as district clerk.
Is there a second?
Second.
Made by Stephanie, seconded by Jennifer. Are there any questions? Questions from the public? All those in favor of naming Glenda Kearney the district clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, Linda. I'm not sure which job pays better. Yes. Mr. Tennis and admin have interviewed folks and have identified William Hunt as technology director. Is there anything quick to share about Mr. Hunt?
No, very, very experienced technology person, not necessarily in the role of a school, but good, solid background in technology and seemed to be a good communicator with understanding of how to help people that maybe are not so savvy with technology. Is that accurate?
You said
Yes.
that? Yes.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion related to action item 5C?
I move to approve the contract for the technology director position to William Hunt as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Jennifer, moved by Stephanie. Are there questions from the board? Questions or comments? Questions from, or comment from admin and the public? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the contract for a new tech director, Mr. William Hunt, as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. This brings us to item D, which is the reason we're having this special meeting. Law requires that we have 2 readings of when the school board has to approve or consider a budget increase to cover funds. This is particularly in the retirement fund, retirement budget for the 25-26 school year. And so we've had first reading on this at our earlier June meeting. This satisfies the Montana law by having second reading today. And of course, this has been published and noticed in the newspaper. And so all the taxpayers in the area have been provided notice that we will do this. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, we actually made our payment, the necessary payments with a little bit left. So this was a precautionary move anyway. So just so you know that we are not having to dip into the reserves, but I would recommend that we just go ahead and approve the second reading, but we did not have to access reserves.
No.
Is that accurate, Bill? Yep. Yep.
Is there a motion from a trustee? Dan?
Second.
Seconded by Stephanie. All right, at this time, are there questions or comments on this particular item from the trustees? Questions or comments from the public? All those in favor of approving second reading of the budget amendment resolution as presented to cover increased costs associated with retirement, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The last item on today's action agenda is the appointment of Shelby Zeiler as the officer to administer the district visa account. Any quick notes with this?
Yeah, just we learned in this transition that there was not really a name attached to the Visa account, so there was nobody with the authority from the district to really make changes to the Visa account. And so with some communication with the bank, it was determined that a board appointment or motion would put somebody in an official capacity to do that. So the bank would then have record that they're speaking and working with the right representative.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion from any trustee?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve Shelby Zeiler as officer of the district Visa credit card accounts with TC Bank.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jennifer. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from admin? Seeing none, all those in favor of appointing Shelby Zeiler as the officer of the district Visa credit card account with TCM Bank, please say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That's our last action item for this short and special meeting. Is there anything from any board member? I know, in terms of just the logistics, appreciate the folks that filled out the availability survey. I'm kind of in a place where I'm waiting to connect with John, who's out. And of course, he starts July 1st, and so a little bit of a holding pattern there, but I will say, the only thing that was unanimous on the availability survey was to do as much as we could in 1 day. After that, everything was, everybody had different availability, different things, but that's where I'm gonna be looking. Everybody was unanimous for that. Set aside a day to work rather than, not saying we won't end up with couple meetings, but that was by far more preferred than having several 2-hour meetings. So that's where that stands, and I don't have anything else to add to that. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Jennifer?
Second.
Second by Brendan. All those in favor of adjourning this special meeting of the Cedar Middle School Board of Trustees, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.